Good day, everyone. Happy Saturday. It is the last Saturday of the month of March, 2026. Hope everyone had a great week. I wish this weather would make up its mind and decide what it's going to do. This is what you call cold weather. This is where you catch a cold because you go out and then all of a sudden you get a chill and then it's hot and then it's cold. Make up your mind. Yeah. Lord, do you hear me? No, anyway, like he's going to listen to me about the weather. I think he knows what he's doing. Okay. Anyway, hey, we have got a great Saturday for you. Starting things off, we're going to be speaking to our Tulsa County District Attorney. Yeah. Mr. Steve Kunzweiler. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. It's always fun talking to you two guys.
I know we're a little different than others, but anyway, it's so funny how time flies. I'm trying to remember how long ago it was when I was sitting at my desk one day and you come walking in and I didn't know you and you wanted to meet me and talk to me and announced you were running
Probably would have been like 2014-ish.
2014?
Yeah, the campaign started in 2014.
Okay,
just scoot that mic a little closer.
But anyway, we've grown to know each other and respect one another. I think you've done a great job at the position, and it's hard to believe that it's been that long. We're talking 12 years now that you've been in the position, and you've had some pretty good, some pretty large scale trials.
I'd say it's been the honor of a lifetime to just, I grew up in a household up outside St. Louis, in O'Fallon, Missouri. My parents were blue collar parents, and I've got three brothers, and when they're telling you right is right, wrong is wrong, and then you can find a career that kind of fits what you were always taught to do. Every day I wake up loving this job. But when I first became the district attorney, it was just Katie bar to the door, because here we go. I was prosecuting Shannon Kepler at the time, who was the off-duty police officer that had killed the boyfriend of her estranged.
He needs this. Excuse me.
I think there's.
Yep.
It's a noise gate thing. You probably enunciate, but also keep that microphone right.
Okay. Well, I'll work even closer. How's that? There we go.
Yeah.
Right. So I was handling that. That was going on before I got elected. And then shortly after that, we had the Bob Bates case where he shot Eric Harris, thought he was using his taser when he used a gun on him with the sheriff's office. And then that summer I had the Bever brothers who slaughtered their family in Broken Arrow. And then the following year we had the Betty Shelby case with Terrence Crutcher. So, a lot came out of the gates very early on in my career. But fortunately at that point, I had been a lawyer for 25 years or prosecutor for 25 years. I'm into my 37th year this year. Wow. So it's just a privilege to be able to do this kind of work.
Well, what are you going to do when you grow up?
Yeah, good question. Good question. Well, my wife and I look at each other. We both recognize that there is value to being employed. Now, it doesn't mean you have to make money at it. I think you need to just be busy. I think I had a grandfather that as soon as he retired from farming, it was a year and a half later, and he's passed away. And so I just think you have to have a mindset of, if you're capable of doing it physically, then you should just stay busy. That might mean volunteering, whatever you can do. So I will be working until I die. So
now, are you a native of Tulsa?
I grew up outside O'Fallon, Missouri, and then came down here to go to law school in 1986.
Okay. And
that would have been TU Law School,
yes,
right?
Yes,
Because ORU, I think it just moved to Regent.
Actually, my first year of law school, ORU had shut down their law school.
Right.
And so,
Tim Harris was from that law
yes,
school.
Yes, he sure was. So it was so weird. I'm at the TU Law School, and I don't know that I ever would have known that I was a conservative, but I knew, I just knew who I was. And I'm watching some of these professors. I'm listening in law school, and I was like, no, I don't necessarily agree with that. Or that doesn't sound right. I mean, there was this idea that natural law wasn't natural law, and I'm like, it's like, no, I think that's a real thing. And then in the middle of our semester, ORU's law school closed down, and TU agreed to allow their law students to come and transfer in. Mm-hmm. And man, I got this influx of fellow guys and gals who were very conservative. And so when these professors were starting to espouse their liberal beliefs, they teed off on them.
Oh yeah, get a bowl of popcorn.
It was amazing. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm not the only guy in this class that thinks that way. But it was as far back as 86.
Well, Clarence Thomas was one of their guest lecturers, right? He'd come.
Well, I didn't see him at TU, but that deal with Anita Hill, that happened while I was in law school.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It was pretty amazing time to be
You know what's funny about that? That until those students came over, I bet most of the students at TU were almost afraid or hesitant to say anything.
Completely.
Because I've seen that. I did some courses at TCC just for fun and history, and the professors were going off on this, on world history or something. And they would go off on things, and I was, wait a minute, and I'm starting to argue with the teacher. And so it got to the point afterwards. I remember one time where, the teacher said something, the instructor, professor, and I went, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, Mr." He knew where I was headed already. Wow. He got to, I apologize, and I had these professors apologizing, but I looked around and, you have 19-year-old kids.
They don't know to challenge.
Exactly. And they'll just sit there and accept it.
Well, I had to teach my daughters. So when you're going to college, you're going to get a lot of indoctrination, stand up for your beliefs. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you get the grade. And so kudos to the girl like at OU last year. Remember that gal that got an F for simply answering the question as to, a man is a man and a woman is a woman. And of course, the instructor blew her up and became a big lawsuit, but that's still going on today.
Really?
That effort.
Oh, yeah.
I'd
transfer out of any university like that. They have gone nuts.
Yeah. It's an effort to indoctrinate. So I frequently will be telling people who are thinking about going to law school, I said, this was my experience. You just have an open mind and challenge, but don't kill yourself to the point that you're going to lose your opportunity to get a passing grade.
For the sake of young people that may be seeing this and thinking of going to law school, what is the best thing to study for, or how do you best prepare yourself for the LSAT or to get into law school?
Yeah. Well, you're talking to a guy that I think I was just couldn't take a standardized test. My wife and I think my wife's a very successful veterinarian. I've done pretty well as a lawyer, but we couldn't take a standardized test worth a song. But I talked with some guys that did well on those standardized tests, and they said, you just need to take the tests over and over and over and over again and take a course in which they'll teach you how to move through it fast. So it's a large volume of questions and a lot of reading comprehension. But some of these guys would say they never even read the fact pattern. They just go and look at the answers, and they were able to eliminate some of the answers, and they were scoring high. I was like, well, that doesn't seem like you're actually learning anything or showing what you know.
Right.
But they were taught how to take the test.
Yeah.
Right.
And so if it still exists that way, I would tell people learn how to take the tests. And then the balance of that is, law schools are recruiting, if they should be doing their job, they're trying to recruit a wide spectrum of different disciplines. My undergraduate degree is agriculture journalism.
Really?
Correct. And so, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but I also needed to have a degree. And so I went into an area that was interesting to me. I liked advertising. So, and my wife at the time, she was applying for vet school, and the only way you get in vet school is through ag school. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll go through ag school. And they had a little component through the journalism school, but there's not any particular degree. Actually, I encourage some people, don't go pick a degree that will help you get in what you think will help you get into law school, like pre-law or political science or something like that. Go into a degree that you will get some personal enjoyment out of it and thrive in that, because they're looking for people who can articulate from different viewpoints. So you can, while you're looking at a case, you're not locked into one particular approach. So it's fascinating in law school to have somebody kind of like what you were talking about, Eddie, is people who will, the professor will ask a question, obviously can provide for 3 or 4 answers. And so you're hunting for somebody to say, well, what about this? Okay, well, I didn't think about that. And then somebody else is going to come in and say, well, how about this perspective? So it's what you're taught to do in law school is to issue spot, to be able to recognize an issue. And then once you see that issue, you look to try and figure out what are the facts that might impact that issue and what's the relevant law for that. And then how do you analyze the law according to the facts that you're given? And then you formulate some kind of conclusion from that. The only way you can do that is repetitive issue spotting. So I think in a lot of different careers or undergraduate degrees, you can get that, but I wouldn't go into something that you think is going to look good on your resume. Don't do that. Go into something where you enjoy the time that you're there and develop your brain fully as opposed to forcing your brain to learn something.
I want to say something on this. You talk about going to college as a freshman, a lot of indoctrinating happens. And I believe you can't defeat something with nothing. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know who you are, I mean, all 3 of us, I think, were confirmed Roman Catholics. Mm-hmm. And that basis, that worldview, those values are the things that help you in life. And I think, you're still active in your parish.
Yes,
right. Yeah. And you talk about that, how that formed.
Well, so it's funny you'd ask that question because, I interview people for jobs and it was interesting. I had a person that came into my office yesterday for an interview, and this person was 24 years old. And it was obvious to me that while this person had a desire to get a job, they couldn't articulate well enough why they wanted the job. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know whether I'm going to end up hiring this person or not, but at some point I felt compelled to basically tell this person, listen, if I've got one thing to encourage you to do after this interview is you really need to figure out how to articulate what's on your heart, because I could see this battle. He also was Catholic. And one of the things he had articulated in the interview, he's like, I have people who tell me I have a tendency to be too forgiving, which is okay. You can be a forgiving person in the legal profession. You can even be a forgiving person as a prosecutor. But he was having difficulty balancing what his faith life was. And I said, hey, I'm a Catholic and I get that. I mean, you do want it. But I said, he commented about, I asked him, because he figured out I was Catholic. And so I said, okay, so who's your favorite saint? And so he pulled out St. Thomas More, which is a good pick because St. Thomas More is a patron saint for lawyers. And so
he was ready for that question.
but then I asked him, I said, so why him? And so he uses a very obvious example. There's a famous movie called A Man for All Seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so Thomas More was beheaded because he wouldn't validate the marriage of Henry VIII, who wanted to divorce his wife and marry another woman. And so it was all about him standing up for his Catholic principles that resulted in the head of state basically saying, well, I can't let you embarrass the head of state. And, he wanted him to embrace that he was the leader of the Anglican Church. It's like, I'm not going to separate that. So that's how he lost his head.
Changed world history.
It did. But that's what that guy had said. And I said, well, but what's the earlier story for St. Thomas More? Mm-hmm. And he didn't know exactly the earlier story. I said, well, he was a lawyer, right? So he had to have a pretty good understanding of what is right and what is wrong. And I said, the only reason that Thomas More could do what he did, obviously he was solid in his faith, but he also knew that there were lines that are drawn by the law that you can't cross. And he had to recognize that you could be forgiving, but you can't ignore the law. And so I encourage this young person. I was like, listen, you say you want to be a prosecutor. What you really need to learn to do is how do you capture that seed that's been planted on your heart? And I spend a lot of time trying to deprogram people from what they went through in law school, right? I mean, I'm glad they can spot issues, but a lot of times they're afraid to say what they already know. That's wrong. And that guy needs to be held accountable for it. And it's okay to stand up for a victim that you'll never be able to talk to because they're dead. And it's okay to stand up for victims who may be too afraid to come into courtroom. You're that representative. You figure out how to address it. So to your point, how do you get people to really know who they are? I think it's our duty. I mean, we're older guys, right? We need to recognize when they struggle with that and say, hey, it's okay. I know you're in there somewhere. You're in there somewhere. Stop this facade of whatever and just say what you think. There's not really, and you're not going to hurt my feelings if you say something that's different from my politics. I just want you to capture you.
Well, I have some insight. I mean, my daughter for a while was very entry level in your department there. She's impressed with the team and the diversity. I happen to know one of your lawyers comes from a very devout Mormon family. Great family. I know that family well.
Wonderful.
And
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, there aren't that many Mormons in this town. But anyway, doesn't that help a prosecutorial team to have those diverse backgrounds?
Sure. I mean, so I am a death penalty advocate.
Yeah.
I'm Catholic, and some people say, well, how can you be for the death penalty? Well, I am. And I think I have a very principled position on that. But I have people in my office that are ardently against the death penalty. I operate from kind of an Abraham Lincoln approach to running an office, or for him running administration, is if you surround yourself with people who think the same way you do, you're going to cause problems in solving problems. And so I have no problem as long as they can do the job. I mean, if they have an opposing viewpoint from me, I want to hear it. I mean, I want them to say, hey, boss, I'm not so sure you should be doing this because have you thought this or this or that? But if everybody else is pat me on the back and I'm the greatest thing since apple pie,
right?
You're going to go down terrible paths.
If your entire prosecutorial staff comes from the blue blood country club folks, right, and there's not a J.D. Vance there who comes from the hillbilly community, you know, that kind of diversity helps your team.
It totally does. So I had this is one of my favorite interview stories. Had this young kid come in and he had an application and it had typos on the cover letter. And of course, one of my prosecutors was part of the team. Was like, well, we're not going to hire this guy. He can't even type up a letter. He's got mistakes on it. And I'm like, well, I want to interview him. So in the interview, I'm asking him about, you know, what he was doing and did he work and when did he first start working? And then he says, well, I started working when I was 15. My dad had a garage and I worked out of my dad's garage. And then I didn't have enough money to go to college. So I went to work for Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I said, well, how long do you stay working there? And he says, I still am.
Oh man,
it was amazing. And so, I mean, he had put himself through college working for Kentucky Fried Chicken. He went to law school and was in law school still working at Kentucky Fried Chicken to pay his law school bills. And, you know, there were some people who was like, oh my God, are we going to hire a guy that works for Kentucky Fried Chicken? And I looked at him, I was like, what's this guy going to give us? Customer service. He's going to know how to talk with victims who come in and need service. He's going to be excellent in the complaint department. Somebody's going to be having a complaint. He's going to know how to interact with those people. He's going to know what hard work is. I bet he's gone to work early and left late. He's going to know how to carry water when somebody is ill and they can't come into work and he's having to cover 2 or 3 shifts. I said, that's what prosecution is, boys and girls. That guy is going to bring a work ethic that usually we have to teach these people. We can teach them how to do better English. We can teach them how to write a better brief, but you're never going to get a guy with that kind of work talent. And so, that guy was great in my office.
You can't offer him like big bucks.
No.
It got a little better, but it was horrible 10 years ago.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
You were starting lawyers in the mid 40s.
40s. Yeah, it was awful. We're now up to about $67,000 entry level prosecutor you're going to get. But you know, that's even pretty bad because in private sector lawyers are getting they're offering $100,000. If you want to go work as an entry level lawyer at the city of Tulsa, they're offering, I think, $106,000. So the people,
and it's a steady check.
It is, but the people who are coming to work for me, the reason they are coming to work for me is they have a heart for public service and they want to put the bad guy down, or at least they want to make sure that we deliver justice. So they're willing to sacrifice. It's very fascinating to me when you ask some of these people, would you rather have more money or would you rather have a better home life? They'll sacrifice their salary as long as I can help them balance having a family and being able to see their kids. So the expectation is just get the work product done. I'm not going to get too caught up in if you got to run over to your kids' recital.
Is it also a kind of a training ground? Do you ever have prosecutors that end up becoming defense attorneys later?
Not very many these days. I think once you become a prosecutor, quite honestly, it's very hard to step over into that world.
But you started out as an assistant to Tim Harris.
Yes, sir.
Jack Thorpe started out working for you.
Yes, sir. Well, actually, he was over in Arkansas, and then he came over to work for us. But yeah, he worked under me.
Right. But back to the so what you're saying is that once you're in a prosecutorial frame of mind, it's not that easy to transition over to
you could do it, but I always thought, well, geez, if I'm not going to be a prosecutor anymore, could I do criminal defense? It would be a very pointed conversation. It'd be very direct. It's like, all right, here's the question: did you do it?
Right.
And if the answer was, yeah, I did it, and I would say, all right, well, then our focus is going to be what's the best deal we can get? Because I'm not going to advocate to try and get you off unless your rights were violated. Then I have a duty to that. But
now, are you still prosecuting any of the cases
Absolutely.
yourself?
Absolutely.
So how does that work? How do you determine which cases you will personally prosecute and which ones you assign to your?
It's so funny because I've had this question posed to me a couple of times. Some people think that once you're hired as the DA, you ought to be administrative and managerial. And
it's kind of what I was thinking.
and I don't think that's just Jack Thorpe is prosecuting cases. He's in a rural jurisdiction. Most of the rural DAs out there are in the courtroom because they don't have enough money or staff to do it. And so they're prosecuting. That's how I grew up as a prosecutor, was in a rural jurisdiction. I think you lead from the front. And so occasionally you may have some prosecutors who choose to leave the office. So for instance, if I've had somebody doing homicides for a long time, and they come to me and they say, listen, boss, I'm just, thanks for the job, but I just can't do this anymore. It's just too emotionally draining. And I just need to spend time. They'll step out of the office. Well, it's not like you can hire somebody to step right in to do homicide cases. So there have been occasions in which I've taken over a docket or taken over, we do rotation as to where, these homicide cases are coming in. And so I would pick up 2 or 3 or 4 homicide cases a year because I want the people who have the best experience handling those kind of cases. And then until we can get somebody trained up, and then we'll put them in that spot. But I'm going to hang on to those cases I took on. So for instance, this past fall, Chris McDonald murdered a woman that he had just met, that he had just married. A murderer after a month of marriage just literally beat her to death and left her body in the back of their car and abandoned on a road. That was a terrible case. And, mom and dad and brothers and sisters and children are all very traumatized. I'm like, I'm not going to hand that off to somebody else and disrupt that family. I establish a relationship with the victim's family, and it's not fair or helpful to disrupt them by saying, okay, well, I'm going to play tag like in a wrestling match and just let somebody else step in. You can't do that. So I've always, once I take on a case, I'm going to see it to the end. So I pick up various cases. And then there are certain cases that I should just take. So when David Ware shot Craig Johnson, Sergeant Johnson, and Officer Zarkshan, I mean, you need your DA to be handling that case. So I handled that case. So there's some that you just need to take on.
Yeah. And also it's hard to keep the morale up if they don't see their boss working as hard as them.
I agree with that. Yeah. Although a lot of them will laugh and it's like, boss, we can't do what you do. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, we can't keep up the pace that you keep up. The three of us here are a bit old school. Mm-hmm. It's come in early and leave late. That's not the metric for the younger crowd, but I have a few people that have that will just grind it out. That's the population I come from. Mm-hmm. And, That's where my wife's from. We see things through to the finish.
I want to ask about some policy things. I used to go over to the Capitol a little more often, well, quite a bit more often than I do last few years, but before COVID. One of the things they were trying to sell me was this idea of cashless bail. Oh, they made it sound so romantic, and it's straight out of George Soros' playbook. Talk to me about how we dodged that bullet, because
it's still coming. Every year they're going to reinstitute that, and I literally was at we had a meeting of a bunch of law enforcement officers led by the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics yesterday over in Claremore, and that particular topic came up. Is just that these liberal folks, are coming into states across the country, and they're trying to invade Oklahoma with their philosophy, and they'll run down to the legislature. And what you learn is a lot of these legislators, they want to believe what's being represented to them. And we're encouraging our law enforcement partners, like, we need to be down there just as much as these people's lobbyists are down there, because they're getting sold a bill of goods. So to your point, the cashless bail concept is that somehow you can release somebody who's committed a crime without having any way to track them other than they're saying, hey, I promise to appear. Now, does that happen in certain cases? Yes. But that really ought to be up to a judge to assess the entire dynamic. And we do that on a daily basis. If Eddie got arrested for a DUI, he'd probably be on the bond docket tomorrow morning, and there'd be an attorney appointed to represent him solely for purposes of bond. And that attorney would represent to the court, well, hey, Mr. Huff has been a longtime resident of the city of Tulsa. He has no prior criminal history, and we can assure he's going to have a reappearance. He's gainfully employed. The court might say, okay, I'll release him on his own recognizance. But, what courts really need to hear is, if somebody else is there and they've got this gargantuan criminal history or minimal contacts, then we need to have a better way to track them, because failure to appear for the crimes that you were committed, when you don't have anybody tracking them, you're risking those people walking away. Kind of like the same thing we have in our doggone immigration system under the Biden system. Is like, okay, you're here illegally. You need to show up in front of a judge a year from now, and then we're going to address your immigration case. They're not showing up. Right.
Now, you're using the bail bondsman as a private sector kind of monitoring, almost like parole, because they have a vested interest, make sure that their client shows up.
Correct. And that is a benefit to all of us, right? I mean, either you shift that burden over to the government, and then you're going to have a lot more expense and taxes, or you incentivize it through the private industry and let those experts who are bondsmen, they have their tools to be able to track their clients, and they do a great job. It's not very often that you have people jump in bond, because those people have an incentive to say, listen, I helped you get out of jail, and you need to stay employed and don't be committing a crime. But if those people start, running afoul of things, those bondsmen recognize the risk to the community. And so then they'll reapproach the court and say, hey, listen, I need to get off this bond because of this guy's behaviors.
Yeah, but every time, now, you didn't have an opponent 4 years ago.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Right. Before that, you had Ben Fu and some others, Jenny Prohl, people I know.
Tammy Westcott.
Yeah. So, and you had, and they could have these wonderful sounding ideas coming straight out of George Soros' mindset.
One of them wanted to decriminalize the enforcement of drug laws. I mean, it was one of the statements was like, if you're charged with possession of marijuana, I'm not going to prosecute you for that.
Yeah.
Of course,
but you've got to be able to identify that on the campaign trail and help us voters to see these things.
And I think there's that element in my current race. It looks as though I'm going up against an announced candidate who has just recently changed her registration from Democrat to Republican, and obviously I'm going to be running in a Republican primary. But the history of this announced candidate screams loyalty to a different ideology. And across the country, kind of what, David, you're referencing to is the Soros dynamic. What they have figured out, the liberals have figured out, is, do you want to spend $20 million unseating a governor, or do you want to spend $2 million, one in Tulsa County and one in Oklahoma County to unseat a district attorney. You can probably impact more by unseating a conservative district attorney for $1 million and implement your social change agenda. So that's what we have seen happen in places like San Francisco and Portland and Seattle and Minneapolis, all these places where crime is running amok. They are electing people who have minimal prosecution experience, if any, and they will not enforce the rule of law.
Let me ask you, so is the district attorney race, it's not a municipal race then?
No, this is state, all of Tulsa County, and I am a state employee.
Right,
so
because, as you know, the city now has the nonpartisan.
Yeah, we need to change that.
Amen.
That's my personal opinion as a Tulsa County citizen.
But because your jurisdiction is it now completely just Tulsa? There
Tulsa
was some
County, the entire county.
Yeah. So Tulsa has that. I think Oklahoma County has that. Other than that,
Muskogee is the only other single county.
Right. And so many ways you're treated like a county office holder.
Correct. That's the perception.
In fact, that's how my daughter got her job. She saw a county employment list, but you're technically state.
Yes, sir.
And that's important. Now, that was a change to constitutional law when I think back to the 70s.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know, I guess they thought it was corrupted when it was more
they just, like anything else, it costs a lot of money. So if you got 77 counties and everyone has to hire 77 county attorneys.
Yeah, they were called the county prosecutor.
Yeah, that's what they were. And then they decided, let's just consolidate based on population. And so, some district attorneys have 5 counties, some have 4, some have 3. I happen to be in a standalone county.
Yeah.
So how many opponents do you have currently in Republican end?
Announced. On the Republican end is just one person who's announced. I have not heard anybody else, either as a Republican or Democrat. Filing is April 1, 2, and 3. So by 5 o'clock on Friday, April the 3rd, that will be the announced field.
Which is this next Friday.
Correct.
And so
Good Friday.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yep. Let's hope it's a good one for you too.
A man was wrongfully put to death on that day.
Yes, you're right. No, but
I said good for you.
I've had people say to me, gee, I'm so sorry. I was like, do you want to live in an authoritarian government? I like the fact that I live in a country where somebody can say, hey, I want to stand up and I want to run for office. That's what we have all fought for. So I don't have any problem with somebody who says, I think I can do the job better. I'll stand on my record.
It's interesting you say that we have a Democrat that has just announced as Republican or declared a Republican and registered as a Republican, primarily because overall in the state, Democrats aren't doing well. We have this case, we talk about it all the time, in the state legislature. You have a lot of Democrats that switch to Republican simply because a Democrat can no longer get elected in that office.
And you see the net effect of those rhinos in the legislature. That I'm telling you that the bigger threat. I like understanding that I'm dealing with a true Republican. I like understanding that I'm dealing with a true Democrat. Right. The biggest threat to all of us are these rhinos that are pretending to be somebody they're not. That basically tells you something about their character.
Right. Exactly. So
they're drugstore cowboys.
It's good for us to know, and our audience here to know what we're dealing with. Yeah. And this individual is one of those. I don't know well enough to say rhino, but let's put it this way. If they just became a Republican in order to run for this office now, it would take some really good vetting and convincing to convince me to get to honor that change.
I guess what I would tell you is I've been a Republican my entire life. I can at least tell you that.
Well, I mean, let's be fair about one thing. You were prosecutor in Nowata County.
Yes.
For a while. Very rural kind of.
You know your history.
Right. But here's the thing, Steve, a lot of the people that you knew up there were very conservative, but mom and dad were Democrats. We were all Democrats. So that's a genuine thing. When they actually look at the platform and say, what do you know? I am a conservative. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. But the opportunist that I'm going to change and then file for an office, that looks a lot more suspicious than the mom and pops folks who just realize where their roots are.
Yeah. But I mean, that may be one variable on this thing, but I would say based on the announced candidate, the difference is pretty stark. It's difference between experience and no experience. One of the things that was asked at this recent forum I was at was, well, do you have any experience working as a prosecutor? And the answer is, well, yes, I have worked as a prosecutor. The accurate answer for her is, you were an intern in the Tulsa County DA's office for 2 or 3 months. You were an intern at the United States Attorney's office for however long. You were an intern at the Wagner County DA's office. You've never been a lawyer, a licensed attorney, and been a prosecutor.
Wait a minute. Now, the intern, wasn't that part of the law school experience? You had to do some intern. Yeah, so that's a requirement to graduate.
Well, you if you want to do anything, you probably ought to intern somewhere just to get exposed to it, right? That's what I have college kids coming to me all the time. I have law students coming to me all the time. I want them to see what the job is, but I can't put that person prosecuting a murder case. And so it's a... Right. We live in a world of words. Lawyers know what words are. The fact that I'm hearing somebody say, I have worked in a prosecutor's office, I have to educate people. That doesn't mean you actually were a prosecutor.
But if you've been a nonprofit attorney, you probably do more work in writing applications for grants.
Policy. They work in the policy world.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway.
Do we have any idea of whether this other person is a Soros candidate supported by George Soros?
I could at least say in the nonprofit that she worked, you could see the angles for that. I mean, her nonprofit has money from Zuckerberg and some other well-known funders of nonprofits in the criminal justice reform area.
What was the nonprofit? Do you know?
It was called the Appleseed when she was working for them. She stepped down as the CEO founder to run in this race.
And what does Appleseed do?
They have handled cases that deal with women who are in prison that they're trying to maybe modify their sentences under what's called the Oklahoma Survivors Act. They have been involved in certain areas. We had a fairly significant crisis out at the juvenile bureau that our county commissioners had to step in. They filed some actions or filed some pleadings to try and highlight that. And I do have respects. I mean, somebody who's trying to help out women who are caught up in domestic violence things. I admire people that work in that lane, but the job is that's about 1/50th of the job of being the district attorney. And I'm like I said, I'm in my 37th year of criminal prosecution. I'm literally right now among the announced candidates. I'm the only person that's ever taken a bad person off the streets and put them in prison.
Yeah, here's the thing. Donald Trump went through a horrendous season of lawfare. It was largely by local district attorneys, Fannie Hall, Alvin Bragg. That's the kind of power George Soros and some of his allies know exists in this office. And you can throw $1 million into a race and greatly affect it.
I agree with you. And to be honest with you, I didn't think until you said that question that is a net effect of some of that. And that is just as equally as frightening. I'm just a purist, and people sometimes they think when you're elected as a district attorney that you play a political position. I was like, I want to know what party my prosecutor is from, so I know a little bit about their values and their morals, right? And then at the end, I want to know what their values are. But there may be some folks who are Democrats that share the exact same values and morals that I do, who may be much more qualified as a prosecutor. And so I tend to look at it as, at the end of the day, once you cross the line into the office, you're not looking at somebody's politics and you're not making decisions based on politics. You're looking at, was a crime committed, and are there facts in the report sufficient to convince a judge or a jury the crime was committed? That's your job. You don't care about race, gender, ethnicity. You don't care about religion. You don't care about skin color. You don't care about politics. Your job is to be a minister of justice. That's in our ethics rules. We are described in Supreme Court decisions as the minister of justice. We are the last line of defense between a society that follows laws or a society that actually isn't a society, but it's a chaotic situation like Minneapolis.
Okay. I get three people I want to reference here and ask you what they would think if they were sitting here and I say, tell me about Steve Kunzweiler. And those three people will be Vic Regalado. He's our sheriff. Gittner Drummond, who's our AG. And then let's say the Tulsa FOP.
Okay. So let's start with the last one. The city of Tulsa's police department's FOP has endorsed me as their candidate of choice for being the next district attorney or continuing this job. Gittner Drummond, he and I have had a relationship not only when he was in private practice as an attorney, but also as the attorney general. There are times that he and I will disagree, which is the way it ought to be.
And I have done that.
Yes, sir. Quite frankly, yes. But what I like about Gittner is, he will listen, and if you're right, he's going to say, okay. All right, you convinced me, right? And so one of the things that he has done a great job on is he has really gone after these marijuana grow operations and has, they're run by the communist Chinese.
It's Chinese criminal.
Communist Chinese. And so I'm glad that he prioritized that. And I think he would say the exact same thing, we're both in a job in which our duty is to protect our citizenry. And at the end of the day, we're both going to fight that, and he may have a different opinion on certain things than I do, but we're all trying to get to the truth, right? And so I'm appreciative that he has that mentality. And then Vic Regalado and I have been friends for a long time. He was a homicide detective. We prosecuted cases together, and he is he has endorsed me as and is out there campaigning actively on my behalf. He has said that he believes this is the most important election in Tulsa County, kind of along the lines of what you were saying or alluding to with the Soros matter. He says we cannot afford to have somebody that has no experience stepping in with some kind of criminal justice reform mindset. Because we've seen the carnage across the country because of those prosecutors.
Yeah, it's silly. I mean, it's crazy the way he has been able to essentially change our society through the DA offices in the prosecutors, basically non-prosecutors, because they're not doing their job. Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, every major city.
San Francisco's was so bad, they threw him out.
Correct.
The Soros prosecutor.
Right.
Yeah, and so, that's how you change societies, right? I mean, this is all a play on power. Right? At the end of the day, this is a play on power. They are trying to change the world, and if they can seed the poison into our mainstream and make it like it's okay, people will cede to that. When you see law enforcement officers who are told to stand down from enforcing the law on crimes that are committed in their presence, like we saw in Minneapolis, I mean, there's no way that's going to happen in Tulsa County. There is no way a law enforcement agency in this jurisdiction is going to be saying, just because they have some mayor who's saying, well, I'm not going to let you do X, Y, or Z. We're not going to have officers who are going to do it. They're going to uphold the law and protect our community, and I'm going to continue to fight that same fight.
I think the difference with us here in Oklahoma, and in the case of the district attorney being not a municipal office, that you have the suburbs and the people, in my mind, that think rightly to still back you up and support you. The problem with these other cities, these major metropolises, is that they're so infused now with a leftist liberal mindset that it's getting harder and harder to truly say that you can find justice in them. And it's a sad thing that our countries, and I pray that Oklahoma and Tulsa in particular remains the way it is, to where we do have the the balance and the people that can make the right decisions.
Yeah, it's your classic communist manifesto. It's like, are you going to give this guy a fish, or are you going to teach him how to fish, right? The principle is to make the society dependent on government because we know what's better for you. And that's what our founding fathers fought so much against, was we trusted the individual enough to be able to make intelligent decisions for their own safety and protection. But the tyrants of the world, all they're focused on is controlling the narrative and controlling the money and controlling the power. And so we should constantly be resisting against those notions.
Do you have any major cases in the county right now that you are working on?
Sure. So I have a case, actually Raymond Johnson. Mr. Johnson committed a horrible double homicide, killed his girlfriend and her baby. He was prosecuted while I was in the office, and before I was elected, he got the death penalty. I will be down in Oklahoma City. He's going to be having a effort for clemency to try and get his death sentence. He's appealing for clemency. I'm going to be down there opposing that. He has his execution date set in May, and I expect that I will be down in McAllister for that. So that's
will
something.
The victim's family be present?
Well, yes, good. and this is a good example where the Attorney General's office, they're lockstep with my office. They wrote a fantastic brief to the Pardon and Parole Board, basically outlining the true facts of what happened in that horrible murder. So that's just one thing. That's one big thing that's coming up. But, as a prosecutor, you're taking on caseloads that even predate you, right? And you have to pick those things up and know what to do with those facts and circumstances. So I've got that. Still trying to prosecute a case of a couple individuals who, a couple years ago, it was the very first homicide in Tulsa, which had a little 12-year-old boy that was shot on the front porch on New Year's Day. I've already got one of those individuals convicted, and we're working on trying to prosecute the other one. It was kind of I wouldn't call it a drive-by, but basically it was. They got out of a car, jumped in the yard, sprayed this house with bullets, and this poor kid who just happened to be on the porch was in the crossfire. And
how old?
12.
Oh my God.
So, that's another example of a case. I mean, I'm just like, it happened and showed up on the docket, and we didn't have a prosecutor available at the time. And so I took it on, and I got engaged in a conversation with the victim's family. And I assured them that I'm going to handle that case and stick with it through to the end. I'm not going to be administering, managing, and pushing that case off. You just can't do that to people. So yeah, there are cases that I will continue to hang on to. And, sometimes it's a child abuse case, and I'll handle those cases or anything else. It just depends.
One of the things, I was on the board of a mental health organization at the time. We had you come in and your opponent. And it has to do with mental health in its threat to, I don't know what that is. We got to keep going on. But the threat to public safety. But yet the criminal justice system isn't necessarily the right fix.
Right.
You've seen that in your own family.
Yeah, no, completely.
And I think for you and I, we're cheering new facilities, hospitals, so that they don't end up under Vic Regalato's care.
Correct.
And you want to speak to that?
Sure. So this is owned by both parties. We as a state have a duty and obligation to make sure that the first dollar that's spent is for public safety. What do I mean by public safety? Public safety is obviously the police that are on the streets and protecting us from the interlopers who are coming from external or internal threats. Public safety is fire. In AMSA, those people that have to run into a house and save people's lives. Public safety is also the mental health profession, in that there are people who cannot take care of themselves. And as I've said many times, of all the diseases that you could be afflicted with, I've yet to find somebody to say they would gladly take on mental illness. Nobody wants to be mentally ill. And for those individuals who cannot take care of themselves, they are not only a risk of being harmed and frequently are harmed and victimized,
yes,
but oftentimes they can hurt other people, and they do. And so the state owes a duty and obligation from a public safety standpoint to have the infrastructure in place to provide for their safety and the safety of the population. Well, for the last 30 years, the infrastructure has completely decayed, and those chickens have come home to roost, so to speak. And so now we're in a crisis moment where we don't have adequate facilities. We have not anticipated a growing population. We've not kept pace with drugs and alcohol that have influenced, I would say primarily drugs, that have influenced a lot of some of the mental health issues. And so now we have droves of people who are homeless, who are very mentally ill, and many of those folks are either getting victimized or hurting other people. So we have to build out, and that's going to cost. And that, unfortunately, was a can that was kicked down the road by way too many other generations before us. And of course, I could see that happening, and Sheriff Regalado could see that happening. But the executives at the Department of Mental Health, instead of just being honest with everybody and saying, here's what it truly costs, they would only ask for enough to kind of do the things that they like doing. They don't. I don't think anybody wants to deal with somebody that's smearing feces on the wall, but that reality exists, and that's an expensive proposition to protect those individuals. It's easy to do the things where you give a candy bar to somebody because they've been sober for a month. But those people that, can be victimized due to mental illness, we have a duty and obligation to protect them. So we have a sizable bill coming to us that we shouldn't have had to pay, but now we are going to have to pay.
Well, very good, Steve. It's always good. Is there anything else you'd like to say that we haven't covered of that?
Well, well, how about let's pitch the compliments back to you guys. I mean, I'm just so appreciative and humbled to have the opportunity to come and talk on a program like this. I encourage people, if you ever want to talk to me, you're certainly welcome to. My cell phone is area code 918-261-0548. I have that on me 24 hours a day. It's sitting next to my head when I go to bed at night. And
don't call him at night, though.
Yeah. Well, somebody's going to want to write a check to a campaign, or maybe canvass a neighborhood.
Okay, so
yard sign.
Steve K 4DA. So it's STEVE. That's my first name, Steve K, the letter K, the number 4 DA, Steve K, number 4DA, .com. And if you go to that, it'll pull up, and there'll be drop-down menus, and you can find out about me. And if you want to help out, then that would be appreciated. But the one thing that I will always ask for is prayers for our community, prayers for our public safety partners, prayers for anybody who's in this profession. We need we need your prayers so that we can continue to have the resilience and the perseverance to do this job.
I've got an endorsement I want to make. Steve, despite all the debates we've had on issues, I'm fully in support of your reelection.
Okay, I'll put you up on my website.
And I also want to say, until I found out my friend John Eccles was running for Attorney General, I was considering asking you.
Oh, my gosh.
But I don't know how you feel about the slate of candidates in that race. Maybe you want to stay out of it.
I am going to let's whittle it down to whoever is going to be the Republican on that particular race.
Safe.
But they're all good and qualified, and
that's a good answer.
They're unique ways, and you just every voter ought to get themselves educated. But thank you so much for that. You and I do go ways back, and I'm always appreciative that people will support me, and I'm humbled by that, because if you just think about that, I'm mystified that people will give me money to occupy a position. I give somebody money to work on my car, and then I get my car fixed, or I give people money and they give me food that sustains me. But the idea that people will give you money, part with their good money, on the assurance that they just want you to do this job, that is a humbling experience. And so anybody who's donating to my campaign, all I can tell you is I will make you proud. I will fight every day to protect you. It's been my calling, and I would love to do nothing more than to end my career out being a prosecutor.
Can I say something that Vic Regalado once asked me when I said, can I come down and volunteer to train your detention officers so we don't end up with another Elliot Williams?
Yeah.
He was shocked. He said, you'd do it for free? I said, Vic, I have loved ones who might very well, because of their mental health, end up in your facility.
Great idea.
And I don't want them to die.
Great idea.
Well, the same is true when it comes to mental health and criminal justice. I want somebody who understands needs instead of just throwing a hammer at them and say, straighten up.
No, I agree. And so I know you were wanting to close out, but as it turns out, the largest team in my office is the team that does alternative courts. DUI court, drug court, mental health court, veterans treatment court, women in recovery, men's first step program. Those are the folks. I always say you can divide up crime in two categories. Those we're afraid of and those we're aggravated at. And the people we're aggravated at are the people who typically have mental health or addiction issues. So that takes a lot more resources and time. And so the team I have that's administering that, I have more people assigned to that particular prosecution team than the other ones for that very purpose. Is like, let's ferret it out as best we can and then try and save the taxpayers money if we can, rather than putting somebody in prison.
Good.
Well, thank you so much, Steve. And well, good luck to you. And
thanks.
And possibly after the primary, we might have you come back again.
That'd be great. And you guys can call me anytime.
Well, that'd be good.
Well, and the offer's open. If an issue comes up that you feel you need to respond and address.
Yeah,
please,
And I'm sure we'll have
Why
some
not?
high-profile cases again in the future.
Are you guys open to having other people? I mean, like I can bring somebody from my office to
sure.
join in the conversation.
That would be great.
Yeah, maybe you can meet some of my alternative court prosecutors and they can talk about what they do.
Yeah, I've heard so many good things about them just from my daughter, working with them.
No, it's a wonderful office.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful office.
Good. Steve K. 4 DA.com.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
All right.
While Dave sees the DA out of the building, I'll go ahead and mention a few things. Our subjects we're going to be dealing with today is supposed to be one of the largest, if not the largest, No Kings rallies ever in New York City, and probably they'll have them in LA, Chicago, of course. So we'll see how that works out. To me, the No Kings is an idiotic idea, but anyway, we'll get into that one. Another one, the Ugandan military chief, the military chief of the nation of Uganda is now supporting Israel in their fight against Hamas and, of course, Iran. So they're supporting. It's amazing that coalition has been built, but we'll discuss that. And then finally, this is one of my favorite subjects, that the city of Chicago is going to join others in a referendum on reparations. They want to raise $100 million in reparations money. So we'll get into those here when Dave gets back, and we'll continue our discussion about several issues, national, state, and local. So, but we're thankful for having Steve Kunzweiler come in, our district attorney. I think he's a very good man. He wants to do right. We don't or have not agreed on everything all the time, but I do appreciate him and his work. It's not an easy job, people. It's something that we can think about, but as I said, it's not necessarily a simple job. As Dave zooms in, gets in. For my close-up, Mr. DeVille.
Oh, there we go.
Let's see if you have me still in the frame. Oh, yeah, look at you. Good job. Good job.
Good.
Yeah. So anyway, I was just preparing people for the next segment of what we have coming up. And I've given them three headers here. The No Kings rallies, the new ones today.
Yeah.
Uganda Ministry of Military. I'm sorry, I keep saying ministry. When it comes to Africa, they have so many ministries, a ministry of this, ministry of that, ministry of that, but it's the Ugandan military chief is supporting now Israel in their fight against Hezbollah, Hamas, and of course, Iran.
Yeah.
So we've got, or they have another ally, and then Chicago moving to reparations, and I'm sure you have some things. But let's start with our No Kings rally today. Rallies.
Well, this is the reset. The last one looked like a geriatric joke.
Yeah, they're hoping to get some young people. I bet you it's the best young people money can buy.
Yeah. Well, Bruce Springsteen thinks best thing you can do to stop Trump is pay $8,000 to go to his concert.
Yeah.
All these geriatric liberals,
It's funny. I have never liked his music. I remember when the first time I heard about him, we were living in Europe, and I'd hear this Bruce Springsteen. So I said, I got to hear this guy. And I thought, where's the beef? I mean, what is it? I just have never been impressed by his music. So I don't know.
Yeah. The funny thing on this, because I was that way sort of about U2.
Mm-hmm.
The people just raving about it. I thought, yeah, it's good, but you're kind of overplaying how good.
I agree. Well, I would say on probably the first 2, maybe 3 albums, that was that way. But then they actually have to say improved. U2?
Yeah, I think the Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For is probably their best. And that came out later.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, personally, I think they still haven't found what they're looking for.
No, but that to me was a good
song. Was the beginning. That was the beginning. The ones after that, there were some commercially popular.
Yeah, but Joshua Tree was the first album that was the rave, and right. What?
Yeah, I agree.
So what?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There was a group. I used to do these festivals, and there was this group out of England. I'm sorry, they're not England. They're from Scotland.
Okay.
And I cannot think of their name right now. It was a Christian group. Mm-hmm. And I thought they were much better than U2, but they never. It was particularly the lead singer and guitar player. The guy. Honestly, I get goosebumps thinking about him. The guy was so good, and their group was so good. The music, and it was Christian music, but it was not like anything Christian you might hear on one of the American Christian stations. It was just very, very good music. But anyway, I always thought, well, they're better than U2 is, but U2 at that time was the popular one. And of course, the more money you get new producers, writers, and production gets improved and better. So, and I think the other thing that has turned me off, and you too probably about U2, is their political stances. Some of their stuff is just off the wall. It's just weird, It
is. And Eddie, what is it about? It seems to be coming from the top that they think that the winning business strategy is go radical leftist on politics.
Well, it's because of who they hang around with. It's always been that way through the ages. The entertainers have always been separate and many times, if not most times, opposed to the bureaucracy and whoever the party in power is. That it's a thing. Back to the days of Rome. Remember the comedians, they would even there make fun of the emperors and so forth, but it was in jest but
yes,
even going back that far, it slowly infected the thinking of the populace. Yeah. And has caused the downfall of many societies.
Yeah, that irreverent humor and stuff. But my wife has me watching American Idol now. Okay. The last several years, Lionel Richie's been a part of it, and now Carrie Underwood. And it reminds me of something I read. Glenn Campbell did a magazine article about he was, like I say, he came to Tulsa to fill in for one of the sick Beach Boys guys at Skelly Stadium. And that was his first break. And he was going to go into rock music. And of all people to seek advice from, he contacted Lawrence Welk. And Lawrence said, don't go rock and roll, go country. And Lawrence Welk says, there's a whole lot more of us than there are of them. And I think that's the thing about country music that's so different. It's the flyover countries, it identifies with us. And that's a business decision too. The Dixie Chicks found out the hard way. Yeah. In country music, you go this route. And it just kind of merged with CCM, right? They both hang out in Nashville. And I think I see two different cultures going on. That's what I see.
Oh yeah, you always have that. You've always had that, and it's the nature of the arts.
Yeah,
to push the envelope, to find something new, and the easiest way, the quickest way to make an impression is to be the odd guy or odd girl, odd person. So, and when you go against the grain, that gives you even more attention, and then as you you awaken that rebel spirit in others. Yeah. And so that group then, that's our guy, that's our girl, that's our person. And all of a sudden you created a whole new subculture. And see, this is what's happened. The Democrats have been good at this with the Black community and minorities and convincing them that they're oppressed because they are rebellious in general. And they're getting other people to join their rebellion because, and obviously, yes, the American society did bad things. There was a time, and you have that group that liked it. There was probably, I would say the majority, however, never felt totally comfortable, but they went along with it. Yeah. It's always like Nazi Germany. You remember Nazi Germany? Hitler became popular with what? The youth. He even created a thing called the Hitler Youth. And the older society came against them, but it was the younger ones.
I wish Steve Kunzweiler was here for this because he will get into this. What Hitler did was tell the German people, it's not your fault things are so bad. You got screwed over by the Treaty of Versailles, or it's the Jews.
But who bought into that was the young people, the youth.
Right.
Because the older ones were ready to let it go and we'll rebuild slowly, quietly, and we'll be our German. But Hitler was impatient. He was a megalomaniac on his own.
But it's what the race baiters, the poverty pimps, you're in. And here's the thing, and this is why I wish Steve was here, because so many people end up before his, team in court, and they're blaming somebody else for their own misbehavior. They want to play the victim card instead of taking responsibility for their own actions. And it has a criminal justice thing, but people buy into that. It's not my fault. And I'm actually a victim, not a perpetrator.
Right. Well, yeah, but in the case of societal, sociology, I guess you would say, that's not so much the case, because we're not talking of victimhood. we have people that aggressively don't like culture, don't like society, so we're going to reshape it in our image.
Okay.
And there's the movie years ago, and I may have talked about it here before, and Wild in the Streets was the name of it, Wild in the Streets. And the whole movie was this young guy, and he started this rebel movement, and finally, they got to the point where they're killing everybody over 40.
Wow.
And because the youth was, they just did not like the way the elder society operated and things. And so they actually won. They actually took over and ruled America and the world. They took over. Well, in the final scene, there's this little kid fishing on the bank. He's probably 12 years old. And the guy who's like 30 or 28, who was the leader of the ones who had just killed everybody, basically gotten rid of. And the kid catches something. He has something, and the guy, the leader's out there talking to the kid, smoking a cigarette and all of this, and doesn't really give much regard to him. And he takes whatever the kid has and kills it. Kills this animal or whatever it was. And the final scene is this little kid's, you just wait, we're going to get you. And it was just showing how these guys would rule for a minute, but then the next group was going to come and get them.
Yeah.
It's just this thing about youth that you have that where better. You don't like the way it's going. We're going to take over.
But instead of just being against something, you're morally bankrupt if you're not for something. You look at the French Revolution and how it evolved. The guy who created the guillotine to establish justice was eventually beheaded on the guillotine.
Marie Antoinette, who supported it.
Well, they were against the oppression by the royals, but they became even more oppressive.
Was that Richelieu?
Yeah. And so what I see happening, especially in the streets of Minneapolis this winter, is much like the French Revolution. They were against Trump, but they couldn't really tell you what they were for. Right.
Like this No Kings. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, that we don't want kings. Well, of course you don't want king. We don't have a king. But what you really want is a dictator. They're not saying that, but they want a dictator who will do what they think they want done. Yeah. And you, at some point, someone will arise. And I believe where we are, I would not be shocked if it's the Antichrist that finally comes in and becoming that person.
They will tell you that they are for things, because the lesbians will tell you they're for Gaza. And the Islamic leadership there, the terrorists, who the first thing they want to do is kill the lesbians.
Right. But you know what that is? They just want somebody on our side to get rid of the real people in charge.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
It's about power. It's just raw lust for power.
I wrote this thing in about 1980, I think it was 86 or 88. I wrote this I was still fairly new. I'd been with YWAM about 5 years, I guess, Youth with a Mission. And God gave me this thing, and I wrote this thing, and it's an essay I wrote. It's a 3-parter. And what it says is there are 3 entities that are working against the establishment in America and society. And the first one is Islam. The second one is the radical left. And then the third one is a New Age syncretism. Now, for those of you that don't know what syncretism is, it's a blending of religious ideas. In other words, all roads lead to the same place.
Yeah.
It's New Age philosophies, religion, and all, where it's okay to be a Buddhist, just be a good Buddhist, be a Muslim, be a this, be a Unitarian, basically Universalist. And so these 3 entities, and what I did, it reminded me of when in 2 Chronicles, I think 20, where Jehoshaphat has been attacked.
Yep.
He had been. Well, I don't want to get into a whole religious discussion or Bible study. Go read it. Okay, 2 Chronicles 20, chapter 20. So anyway, in this, you have these 3 armies that are coming against the nation of Israel.
Yep.
And the way Israel ended up defeating them is God told Jehoshaphat to get the musicians together and have them go out in front and march and sing, give thanks unto the Lord for he is good, his mercy endures forever. That's all they sang. They just kept saying over. And as they're marching, and the army was behind them, as these 3 whole armies from 3 different nations were coming against them. But when they got there, they were marching over a hill, and the 3 armies had killed themselves or killed each other. They got into it and killed each other, and Israel never even had to fight. And so, but that's why I was saying we have these 3 entities that have united. Okay. So as I said, if you look at it, if you look at Islam, the, what would you call them? All of the leftists, your gay, what is that gay, GLAAD, let's say.
Gay Lesbians Alliance Against Defamation.
Right, there you go. Yeah. I don't even know if they're probably old past, say they're not radical enough anymore. But
it's exactly the point.
Yeah. So you've got all of these leftist groups that have gotten together, and then you have all the universalists out there, and they're all the same. And one of the things that they all seem to have in common today, and I want to warn you, my wife would hate this. She'd be grabbing my finger. Don't you point your finger. But I want to, as Uncle Sam says, I need you to understand is that these are all working for the same end. That is to end the Judeo-Christian influence over America and Europe. They've succeeded in Europe. They've pretty much driven the Judeo-Christian ethic out of Europe, and now they're working here in America. And these entities do not stop. It's like the old song, Rust Does Not Sleep. It just, they keep creeping. A lot of what we were discussing earlier. And so we have got to somehow unite. And sadly, I hate to say it, but among Christians, the divisions we see, it's just ridiculous the way, and on the conservative right, the divisions, everybody wants to be in charge. You've got the group that, well, we must be understanding, we must be more gentle, we must be this, or I want this here and I want this. Either everyone wants to be the boss or they don't want to offend anybody. Those are the 2 polar sides of this thing. You got the group of conservatives that, our way or the highway, or the group that says, well, let's be careful and let's not offend. We'll gently curse these people or convince these people that our ways are right. And that's where we're at. I mean, we're in that situation, Dave, and it's kind of sad. And this No Kings rally, it'll be successful. I mean, they'll have a lot of people out there if the weather's nice, at least. Last one, I think they had another one last year, right?
Right, yeah.
And that one, the weather was so cold.
It was. I think it was in November, yeah.
And it was so cold that they couldn't really get it together. But I'm sure they'll have a lot of people. And now you got the boss, who's a joke to me, the joke you need to call Bruce Springsteen, and all of these, Jane Fonda, you got Jane Fonda and all these people together, and they're all making this big show, So,
well, if they had it in the parking lot of Luby's cafeteria, they might have a lot more people.
No, I have a feeling they'll get some youth this time, but it will be a lot of your old school radicals. I mean, the saving grace is that the youth seems to be going the other way again. And it's probably because, well, these are just a bunch of old people. Their stuff doesn't work. It's been proven. So now you're going to have the new radicals. And a lot of the new radicals are on the other side again.
Yeah. You know what got exposed with the Kamala Harris campaign? That they did this big push because remember, right away, she had $1 billion, unheard of, right? but she had to pay 7-figure sums to Oprah and different people. They weren't going to endorse her for free.
Right.
They wanted their cut.
Yep.
And it's all about business. It's all about, the almighty dollar. What I want to say here, you've got a principle, and this is so important. Think back when you were in elementary school, those like Eddie and me, who in the winter, it was, snow everywhere in February, and all you could do is play King of the Hill on that big pile of snow in the parking lot. You started out at the bottom and everybody's your teammate because you all want to take out the guy at the top of the big snowbank or mound pile. But once you get to the top, you have to start turning on each other. We saw that with the overthrow of the Shah of Iran 50 some years ago. The college kids started it, but then all of a sudden the religious folks come in and took over. Really, it was all a Soviet push. And then the Soviets got screwed over by the Islamists. And that's why the Soviets, just never liked Iran.
Right.
Because you couldn't trust these people. They're religious, but they're the biggest liars.
Right. I mean, it's like I said in Second Chronicles, these guys all turned on each other. They wanted to get Israel or Judah. It was Judah, the southern kingdom. But anyway, and they turned on each other and killed each other and killed everybody. They killed every last one of them. So, that's let me throw something else. I think we made our point here. I don't want to beat this dead horse. The second season of David on Amazon. Did you ever see the first one?
No, I did.
Amazon Prime. It's good.
Yeah.
Let me just put it there. I highly recommend it. Now, they've taken some literary license. Everything's not, and they even tell you in the beginning that not everything in here is accurate.
At least they're honest about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about Ben-Hur, King of Kings.
Oh, 10 Commandments.
10 Commandments.
They made it into soap opera.
Well, yeah. Well, similar, but but they took liberty and literary license. Okay. Well, that's what this, but the gist of it is good. Okay. Anyway, they're in season 2 now. The first one ended with David killing Goliath. Okay. I'm just going to spoiler alert, like as if nobody knows that David kills Goliath. You're waiting for it. Anyway. So season 2 begins. We just saw the first episode last night because Amazon was charging on Prime. You had to pay per episode. Well, we happened to be looking last night and it's free again, season 2. So anyway,
maybe this episode's free.
No, the whole thing.
Oh, good.
The whole thing was free.
Okay.
So anyway, so I can't wait to get to 2. But anyway, so this episode starts right after David kills Goliath, cuts his head off, and then all of a sudden, here come Israel attacking, and the Philistines are on the other side. But anyway,
do you still have to pay for last season's episodes?
No, last season was always free. What they did, you had this first season, it was like a teaser, and then they charge you for season 2. When you say, okay, now what's going to happen? But anyway, so they had this big battle, and like probably 2/3 of the show was this battle they had. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there was some fighting going on, it's excellently done. So I just want to tell you, if you haven't seen season 1, watch season 1. But if you haven't seen season 2, because if you're like me, didn't want to pay for it, it's free now. Go watch season 2. It won't follow exactly. In fact, the even the Bible doesn't really tell you what happened after he cut his head off, other than.
Do you think that they've taken a lesson? Have they taken a lesson from the series The Chosen about Jesus?
I don't think so. Well, for one thing, this is a Jewish production.
Well, it is. I'm talking about not that they believe all this other stuff, but just saw the business sense in it.
Well, that could be.
That now there is a market for this.
Oh, yeah. Because there's a lot of new faith-based shows and movies out now.
Right. You remember when we were much younger, college days and after, Campus Crusade funded the movie Jesus.
Movie, right.
And they also did some Genesis stuff as well. But there was a market for it. It just, how do you monetize it? It's a business deal.
Yeah, that could. Yeah, I'm sure it was. I mean, and see, here's the issue I have with people who think that way.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just a business. Well, yeah, but everything is. I mean, do you work for food? I mean, what do you do? Is that not a business deal? Everything's a business deal. The question is it corrupt or is it not corrupt?
Yeah.
That should be the real issue. A workman is worthy of his hire, right?
Yeah.
But no, what's the old saying? The parishioners say about the pastor, you keep him humble, Lord, we'll keep him poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you this week talked to a lifelong friend of mine, David Bamberry, because you're both in the insurance industry. But Dave's been a pastor a long time. So I'm staying at his house for a few days. And we're talking about that. He says, as a pastor, he says, you've got to be consistent. You've got to always be there every week. Even during COVID, we had to hurry up and learn how to do a Zoom service. And he says, but he says, you got people who are faithful in supporting the church, and some people are just very haphazard. And he says, well, actually, this was I says, maybe if you say to those people who are haphazard, would you like to come Sunday morning and we might be here, or we might decide to go to the beach? Or, how would you, if you really believe in reaping what you sow, what would you have? There is a business aspect even to the local church community.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to have a solid basis. David couldn't even get, financing to build that church down in Tampa if he couldn't show some stability and support.
Exactly. People don't understand, and the human nature is that people still equate success with riches.
Mm-hmm.
And the key is, what are the riches being used for, not are there riches? A person that I find is probably the most hated Christian pastor on earth
mm-hmm.
is Joel Osteen.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Because he makes a lot of money. Well, the deal is, he takes no money from the church. He basically says, whatever donations come into the church,
sure.
That's not mine.
Sure.
That goes into the church and the ministries. All of his funding comes from his books that he writes, videos that he does.
Yeah.
It's all his work.
Yeah, Rick Warren's the same way, successful author, so he's able to do it. Now, obviously, the church helped propel that, so he's going to continue to, keep in mind, your ministry is what you do with the motivation of your love for God,
mm-hmm.
not your paycheck.
Right.
It's the difference between being truly a servant versus being a professional Christian who gets a check for doing it.
Right. And here's the deal. I mean, how many churches with poor pastors do you see filled every Sunday?
Yeah.
You just don't see them. People measure success by, is everybody else, is anyone else, and how many people you go to. I'm not going to name any names, but I can tell you three churches at least here in town that I guarantee you the pastors are getting six figures a year.
Okay.
And they're in big churches, big facilities. Some
mm-hmm.
have several facilities. And yet, nobody thinks about it. But because Joel is on TV
mm-hmm.
and it seems like he's flashier or whatever, they look down on him, Now, let me say this. I'm not going to go to Joel's church. It's just not the church I want to attend.
That's a personal decision about your life, not his life.
Exactly. Nevertheless, I praise God that he is reaching a group of people that I can't reach, my pastor can't reach, your pastor can't reach, and those of you that hate Joel Osteen can't reach, okay? So I just say stop it and let God be the judge. God is going to judge whether somebody is right on or not. Okay, that's all I.
I won back in college. I won a state award in a competitive business skills thing because I quoted a guy who's a preacher. I didn't attribute it to him, but these businessmen who were the judges in this thing. But when you went out as a young married man to Southern California to attend seminary, there was another fella who'd gone to California to begin his ministry, and he took over a shut down, closed up drive-in movie theater. And he started church there. It was something different. But I heard him once on the air on TV say, find a need and meet that need, and you will find success. Find a need that's not being met, meet the need. You will be successful. Robert Schuller, Crystal Cathedral, he didn't stay at the drive-in, but he found a need and met it in a way it hadn't been being met. Joel Osteen found a need and met it. Yes, his dad had a church, but John Osteen, his dad, wasn't doing what Joel ended up doing.
Right.
And
Joel never intended. He majored in mass communications at ORU.
Yeah, he was a Tulsa kid for a while.
and then all of a sudden they needed somebody to take his dad's place and asked him to speak one day, and that was it.
Yeah.
So
go back to your second season of David. One of the things in that story was, the prophet comes to Jesse's house that one of your sons is destined to be a leader, and I need to pray for him. Jesse brought all his boys all the way, but didn't bring the youngest, David. And Jesse's like, no. And at that time, you and I might be saying, maybe I miss God, but just there's got to be another.
They did a good job with that. His brothers, they show his brothers in this, and I mean it gives you a new.
But let's tell the story.
Well,
he brought David in finally, reluctantly, and Samuel said, "This is the man." He laid hands on him. David became part of that. They made a movie series about it.
The only thing with me is I don't think we needed to tell if they didn't know the story how it ends up. Then okay,
well,
but it's But anyway, what I was going to say, the one thing different here too, Michal, his David's wife, he's not.
This is Saul's daughter.
Right now, she's actually the good one. She's actually a very, notable and noteworthy person because of her. She's humble. I was going to say she's humility. She's humble. She's nice. She's everything. So I don't know what they're going to do with this poor girl to change her. Right. If they're going to make David look bad, that he caused her. In other words, he lets his success get into his head. And it's really what it gives. It's very different from what you would expect, even like him and Jonathan becoming friends and all of this. It's a little different.
Right. David is given King Saul's daughter because he smote Goliath, right?
We're not there yet. I'm just saying, but that daughter that he's given is not the daughter that you picture after reading the Bible about.
But it was much later when she ridiculed him, and then David, punished her.
Right. And we still don't know. But what I'm saying is it gives you a totally different, because for 50 years now, I've been seeing Michal in a different way than this portrays her, at least at this point. I don't know what they're going to turn her into. Bottom line, go see it. If you have Amazon, watch David and Goliath. It'll probably move over to Netflix because Netflix is now showing a bunch of things that used to be on. It's so funny. You've got things that you have to pay for on Amazon, but they're free on Netflix now. And so, but anyway, I can't even remember how we got here. Maybe because of the word kings, but
that's right. Yes.
The No Kings protests are happening again today, and they're amping them up, pumping up and everything. Just pray for our nation, pray for our leaders, and pray that God is God is held up, okay, and not this. Now, this is a discussion that we can have that I'm always having within myself. At some point, God's not going to answer anymore, at least not in that way, okay? In other words, if biblical prophecy is correct, there is an end time, and there is a final countdown. There's a final reckoning, and when people won't heed anymore, as in the days of Noah. But because you can take two positions in that. You say, well, it's going to happen anyway. I don't need to speak out. I don't need to do anything. I'm just going to wait. Or a lot of them, here's the other thing. That's the bad thing about the rapture. People don't want to get involved. Well, God's going to call us out of here before it gets that bad. We're going to be raptured out of this. I'm not going to suffer. We're not going to be persecuted. I think both of those positions are wrong. I think as long as you have breath, you must pray for peace. You must pray for God to speak, for God to move, all of these things, okay? It's up to him to decide when he stops answering. It's not our job to decide when to stop asking. So let me say that to you. I think that's something that's very important, because you can become embittered, or you can become tired of praying. Oh, I don't want to mess with these people. Kill them all. Take them. Let them go to hell. Let them. No, that's not the Christian attitude. Our attitude is to be, if Jesus died for the sinners, then we need to live for the sinners. And so anyway, that's all I've got to say on that. No kings today. Yeah. Bottom line, as I always like to say, the no kings people are the ones who are looking for a king. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And, they don't realize sometimes what the logical end of their behavior is.
Right.
I mean, Paula Price, back during the Black Lives Matter stuff, 2020, she said, this is about nothing more than the takedown of the United States of America.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it really is.
That is. It brings me to something that I've always talked about. I've talked about it since 1990. Okay. What happened to the communists?
Oh, they repented and accepted Jesus and
were raptured away. I mean, isn't that weird?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the curtains torn open, the walls come down.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the communists have disappeared. Our threat. Well, I'll tell you what happened to them. They're in our academia.
Yeah.
They came to the United States and Europe, throughout Europe, and they essentially have taken over the thinking of the world.
Yeah. My wife and I were talking about different movies, what she likes, what I like. Now, you're a movie guy, okay? You watch movies more than I do. One of the things I can't believe.
I do it so you don't have to.
Yeah. One of the movies I can't believe that my wife doesn't like is Dr. Zhivago. What it teaches you about the Bolshevik Revolution and that whole deal. It's so telling and so vivid about that. This was about a bunch of people riling up the public saying, you're being oppressed by the czar. And they end up being the most just vicious, oppressive people. It's just horrible what the end of the Bolshevik Revolution looks like and what they're doing. And that's the thing is, Eddie, you and I see this in politics all the time. People talk about, we've got to have reform. We have to have liberty and everything. And a lot of the people that are saying that, if they were in power, they would be worse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We've thrown people out of office, even especially in Republican Party politics. We throw a bunch out and put in somebody worse.
If you go historically, every time that's happened, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
You go back to biblical times, okay, when they finally got rid of Solomon, and after Solomon, remember, then David's two sons, and then a group
Rehoboam, Jeroboam, that bunch.
Right. And the one bunch rejected the other one, and they rebelled and set created a whole new nation.
Divided the kingdom.
And what happened to that kingdom? It's never to be heard of from again, right? In the end, if you go to Europe, throughout history, they got rid of the czars and brought in communism. In Germany, they got rid of the Kaiser and put in Hitler.
Or take Obama and Hillary Clinton with the Arab Spring. They wanted to overthrow all these Arab governments, gave us far less stable.
Right.
Now we got a hellhole like Libya.
French Revolution.
Yeah.
Right. What replaced the French Revolution? Every time that's happened, it's always gotten worse. And so now you've got this no kings people who are saying no kings. They won't call him a king, but it'll be a dictator. It'll be some single ruler. It'll probably be the Antichrist.
Yeah.
And so, and if they get a hold of it, and then aid to Israel stops, and Israel is surrounded, and that's when Armageddon happens.
What you see happening in England right now is the Windsor family silently sitting by while their kingdom is destroyed.
Right.
There have been great leaders from the royal family in generations past. Elizabeth's father was a great leader in, World War II.
Right.
But what you're seeing happen now is just a capitulation.
I saw something last night. I can't remember. It was on Newsmax, one of the shows, but it was crazy. The 911 memorial. Okay. It was covered with prayer rugs. No, I'm sorry. It was in New York City, I guess. New York City. There was something with the 911 memorial.
They might have held it down there, but the Mamdani had this public Ramadan kind of prayer.
Yeah,
thing.
I think maybe
there's a public prayer thing went on.
No, I think there's a 9/11 museum. It's a building, and what they've done, they put rugs on in there, prayer rugs for the Muslims to pray.
Mm-hmm.
But the question, what are they praying? Are they praying for the people that bombed the Trade Center or not? But it's just crazy. Something that we know was created by Islamists is now being taken over by those same Islamists in the city of New York, So it's just kind of...
Yeah, it's about 6 square blocks of Lower Manhattan. I stay at a hotel right 2 blocks from it. And they got shopping malls. They got all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. And they got the memorial. They have the new building. It's a gorgeous building.
Right.
Instead of 2 towers, they have just one big one. And then the reflecting pond and, all that.
Right.
But
I think it's a museum. I think it's a museum that's built there.
Yeah, there's such a huge complex of several different. Because remember, it took out several buildings.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, Tiger Woods. If Kunzweiler were here, he'd probably be discussing with me. But I think there's a huge arrest to judgment. He was arrested yesterday. He was trying to pass probably some lawn care vehicle, a truck and trailer. And he clipped the back of it, and his SUV rolled on its side. And he had to climb out the passenger side. And he wouldn't do any kind of drug test. Right. Which is, I still contend, is his constitutional right.
Right.
And, but so they arrested him. They kept him for all day long, because this happened about 3 in the afternoon, kept him till like 10 at night. Right. And it could very plausibly be a concussion. People are saying, he's addicted to painkillers. They're saying, even the cops are saying, we don't think it's alcohol.
Oh, so now that's okay. So DUI is out of the picture.
Driving under the influence.
Oh, yeah, which could be drugs. You're right.
Right. Okay. So anyway, I think it's quite plausible that he hit his head. Because again, fell on his side. I mean, you're literally, your head's against
right, and
the
you're
ground.
in shock, and yeah. So
because look, I mean, I worked the sidelines of varsity football. You've been a player. You've been around guys who've been concussed, and it can be a whole series of symptoms. And to me, the burden is on the state to prove that he's willfully operating a vehicle
right,
that he's
which they can't do,
impaired from doing. Yeah,
they never can do it. So
right.
It's useless. Yeah.
And so I know, prosecutors, just want to look at that. He's guilty. He's refusing a breathalyzer.
I would bet that the prosecutor, the DA there, won't proceed with it because if you don't have evidence of intoxication or influence, then you have no case.
What I'd like to see out of this, because Tiger's got some money, he'll lawyer up, and he should. And look, the Fourth Amendment, it gives us constitutional right against a reasonable search and seizure. Right. Okay? Drawing blood or drawing exhaled breath is, in fact, a warrantless search of their very body, not just their house, right. Not their vehicle. It's literally their body. We're wanting to take their, medical evidence.
Right. Yeah, no, they won't get him now. They could and probably should get him on reckless driving, because if he was trying to clip this vehicle and cause the rollover, they can get him on reckless driving.
Yes and no. Have you ever followed somebody behind and you're trying to pass and stuff or whatever, but he decides to slow down or he's going to hit the brakes? If this guy was passing, the other guy hit the brakes, he's still responsible for hitting the car in front of him.
Right.
But it's also illegal for you to slam on the brakes trying to activate a rear end collision.
Yeah, but see, I don't think from the description he was trying to pass.
Oh, it does. It says,
right.
Yeah.
So unless the vehicle tried to or did run him off the road.
Or just simply stop.
No,
because it's a timing thing.
Then it's following too close.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So still, I mean, one way or another, people pass. And I'm the most guilty of it. I do this all the time. I hate slow drivers in front of me, but I don't get so close till they hit the brakes. I can't get around them or stop in time.
Yeah,
that's one of the basics of driver safety: keeping a distance to be able to stop in time or to avoid a collision.
It's cheap enough now. Everybody ought to have a dash cam.
Well, yeah, it should. But what I'm saying is, there's a legal term. Again, he wasn't here, or Steve's not with us now, but it's res ipsa loquitur. I mean, the thing speaks for itself. Mm-hmm. And if you are passing somebody and you clip the rear and flip over, unless there's proof that they tried to cut you off and caused you to flip over, but it means you improperly passed.
Yeah. The assumption is he's at fault.
Right. Yeah. Improperly passing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, we'll see. To me, his bigger worry will be a civil suit if anybody grabbed their neck in that other vehicle and said, oh, I'm injured now because he hit the back of my vehicle. That's the bigger thing. Anyway, hey, I also talked about the Ugandan ministry of It's the military. Yeah. Every time I get into this ministry thing, it throws me off. But yeah, the Ugandan military chief, okay, he has now said that they are going to support Israel, and which is very interesting because Uganda, I wonder what it's going to do in the country, because you've got these tribes, and the northern part of Uganda is very heavily Islamic. And even in the South, you've got mosques everywhere. So it's going to be interesting out where they're supporting Israel.
Let's remind the people that when the PLO hijacked a plane, they took it to Entebbe, Uganda. And Idi Amin was very much complicit in that. And it was one of the greatest military rescues. In fact, Benjamin Netanyahu's brother was killed in that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny because Idi Amin, when he fled, when he was being ousted, he fled to Saudi Arabia, and that's where he ended up dying in Saudi Arabia. But Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but it is interesting that Uganda has decided to speak out and say that they're supporting Israel.
Well, remember when we had your friend, young man at ORU, Eric, here? He was talking about the Belt and Road Initiative of China, that they basically own Africa. All of Africa is so in debt. I'm wondering how this is playing with China, that Uganda is all of a sudden, on Israel's side, because where does China rely on for their oil? Iran.
That's true, but I don't think China is necessarily a friend of Iran's. They want to use them for their minerals. But see, China, if they're trying to make headway and take over more of the mineral rights of Uganda, they're going to support whatever Uganda supports.
Yeah.
And but the really interesting thing is all of the nations now that are standing, Middle Eastern countries that are standing against Iran. And of course, Iran is stupid. Here's what I wonder. All these missile attacks to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, Jordan, all these areas that have been attacked by missiles from Iran. Are those really Iranian missiles? I mean,
right.
It's just, I'm kind of suspicious. Or have they been set up?
Yeah, but the ignorant American who think, oh, they're all Muslim, they must all be friends. The Arabs hate the Persians. Persians are not Arabs.
Right.
And I think we often overlook that.
It's the other way around. True. Yeah. Plus you've got the Shia versus the Sunnis.
Yeah.
Saudi is Sunni, they're Shia in Israel. I mean, in Israel, Iran. So there's so many things at play here.
And if you don't think that two factions of the same religion can get violent, go to Northern Ireland. Because when we were young men, that was still a thing.
Oh, yeah, it was bad. Bad bombings.
Oh, the terrorism. Yeah, in Jesus' name.
Yeah, our Jesus is better than your Jesus. Yeah.
But let's talk about what's going on in Iran. Eddie, it was 1 month ago. We sat here on a Saturday morning and said, what do you know? They just started bombing Iran a month ago. And they said it could take 4 weeks. And now it's a month later. And Marco Rubio says it could take 4 weeks. This is not looking good. This is taking longer. So I think they've got to find an exit strategy.
Well, see, says the person that grew up with instant on television. Instant television, instant rice, instant. Yeah. We are so spoiled.
But Eddie, they said something and they're having to eat their own words.
Oh, no, I understand. But what I'm saying is the people that hold that against them, hold them to the 4 weeks, generally are the people who don't want us there in the first place.
Well, you can paint me that way, but that's not who I am.
I said generally.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
Now, you may be, I don't know what your reasons are, to me, I have the patience to say I would have been amazed if they've been able, because you got a country with 90 million people. Germany has 50 some million people. 90 million people, Dave. And we're tiptoeing around so we don't kill those 90 million people. We only get the military facilities and so forth.
Yep.
So, see, that's the problem. That's the hard part. And that's, I think, what happened in Vietnam. We initially started out trying to ease our way into it and gently do this. But with Islam, which is a radical state, and Japan, which there was a religious component. Remember, the emperor of Japan was considered God. He was divine. And so anytime you get this religious fervor behind the people, you don't just deal with them by hitting military targets and so forth.
Yeah, I think what I want to say here, because we learned the same lesson when we thought Russia invading Ukraine might last a week, and it didn't. It's the principle of
Russia and Afghanistan, same thing.
Right. But it's the principle of when the lion's chasing down the weakest antelope in the herd. And the antelope, if he could say, he says, the lion would be saying, I just need another meal. And the antelope says, I just want to keep my life.
Yeah.
The lion has a meal at stake. The antelope has his life at stake.
Right.
So for Ukraine, it's their life that's at stake. For Russia, it's just a little more territory. I think that's maybe true, but I don't think it's the Islamic people. And this is the thing we got to find out is we need a way to hear from the Islamic people. Where do they want to go? Because I'm not willing to do more for the Iranian people than they're willing to do for themselves.
Right. The problem is the Iranian people, I guess, 40,000 people were killed like in a week there. But with 90 million, 40 million is not, it's significant. I don't want people to get me wrong. It is significant. However, in lieu of 90 million, 40,000 on the national basis is not that great a number. Mm-hmm. But so what are the people willing to do to sacrifice? I mean, if they're that concerned, when you get, say, 100,000 people protesting against the regime, okay, it would have been better if 10,000 of them had armed themselves with knives, sticks, stones, whatever, and overrun the military, then taken those weapons and then gone after another group, you slowly do it. But to just try to go out and protest and so forth, when all of the arms are in the hands of the other people, the regime, then you can't.
Yeah,
you can't do it.
And this is, I think, part of the mentality that Trump had to weigh when he threatened to take out their electrical generating plants. Because what they were able to do in murdering, these people for civil unrest or for whatever, they murdered, 30, 40,000. Largely because the infrastructure is all working. Because that was before the bombing began. Mm-hmm. Now you take out electricity. Now if you're Iranian, you say, thank God it's not July and we're living in the heat here in the desert without electricity. I think you shut down their capability of communicating altogether. I think there's merit to that strategy, but you almost have to then storm the country with ground troops.
Oh, yeah. This thing of imagine everything they keep talking about of how you can now fight a war without sending in ground troops. It's one thing to take land, another holding it. And to hold it, you've got to have boots on the ground.
But if you do what Trump so far looks successful in Venezuela, he says, I don't want to take you guys over. I just want a nation that I can work with.
Well, I understand. But what I'm saying, you still would have to have troops to make. We didn't take over Europe. We didn't take over Germany after the war. Mm-hmm. But we sent in the occupying army until we rooted out and ratted out.
Your dad was one of them.
Right. Those that are still loyal. In fact, it's funny because under the Marshall Act, okay, when they first went in, there was a 6-week period where they told the Germans, we may have talked about this before, but if you had any knives or sharp instruments over 6 inches long, you need to surrender them. Mm-hmm. All weapons, guns, knives, bows, whatever. And if after that, you will be killed. Mm-hmm. And they did that. They went in, they found weapons, and they brought them in the street, shot them in front of the people. I mean, this was America. This is a story you don't hear about, but that's what happened because there were resistors still in there, not faithful to the Nazis, and they would have resisted and fought again and would have drug on. But we basically went from one side of the country went house to house, house to house, and if we caught people that had weapons or anything, we took them out publicly, executed them right in front of the people. And that's just how we were able to finally quell.
Did your dad have to do that?
No, it was already, he got there in 48, actually.
Yeah.
But you have.
He knew guys, though, I'm sure.
Well, probably.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is this is what we developed to. Vietnam caused this. That's how we lost Vietnam. Instead of saying, okay, we're going to send the entire 7th Army, start at the demilitarized zone, and we're heading north. Mm-hmm. Bomb Hanoi. We did bomb Hanoi, but
eventually,
yeah,
they didn't want to.
Right. But we never sent ground. We observed the DMZ.
Yeah.
We wouldn't cross the DMZ.
We kept a hand tied behind our back, didn't we?
And you cannot do that.
Yeah, I think, the cat's out of the bag now. Trump has got the 82nd Airborne mobilized to go over there. And they're talking maybe about 17,000 troops. I think your threat of invasion is weak unless you actually have the guys ready to invade.
Right, yeah.
And so the threat is just not believable until you have the guys there. So, you hope you don't have to use it, but I understand the strategic part of that, that you want them there so you don't have to use them. Yeah. We want the nuclear bombs, in the Great Plains missile silos so we don't have to use them.
Yeah. And see, the way Iran is positioned, you have multiple entryways. You can go in from the west, and then you can go in from the north, and you can go in from the south. So now the east is where Pakistan is, so it'd be a little harder to. I mean, not Afghanistan is on the eastern side.
Well, and lower is Pakistan. Yeah, Afghanistan doesn't go down to the Persian Gulf.
Well, no. That's why I said you come from the south, the Persian Gulf, or Persian Gulf's actually on the west, and then you got the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
No, the Persian Gulf's on the other side.
It's on the lower part, across the southern border.
Right, but it's the western.
Yeah, it kind of goes up.
And you got Afghanistan on this side. Sorry, we're doing a little geography test here. But anyway, let's say it's surrounded on 2.5 sides by water. Okay.
Yeah, the Caspian
and
Sea.
So then you got from the north, you got Azerbaijan or somebody up there. On the north. But the key is, where do we come in from? If we invade, where would we come in from?
Now, we have a NATO ally that borders them called Turkey. Yeah. By the way, Afghanistan is a big Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, all along the eastern side.
Right.
All 3 of them. Right. And then you've got Turkey's just a small part way up at the tip. And then Iraq is a lot of it, the Persian Gulf and Caspian Sea. That's basically the countries you have, touching you,
right,
and bodies of water.
So anyway, what I'm saying though, the only thing we have going for us is the surprise element. Where would we be coming from? They're military, and you've got 90 million people, but how many of them are in the military?
Yeah.
How many, and where would, they would have, it's a guessing game of where we would come.
Yeah. We used to be on good terms with Pakistan. I'm not sure we are.
Yeah. No, that's true.
And
right.
Of course, you've got, all those Arab countries just across the Gulf,
right, that
generally, I don't know about Oman, but the rest of them we're good with.
Oh, yeah. That's
Kuwait,
what I was saying. Yeah.
With.
Yeah. So we would be good landing from the west or the north and the south. But, we'd have to get Afghanistan, Pakistan's permission to go in the other. Hey, let's move off from this. Chicago. This is kind of a local story as well. Chicago now, they're moving to give $150 million. I'm sorry, they're moving to give reparations to. No, it is $150 million in reparations for slavery reparations in Chicago, right?
Because there are a lot of slaves in Chicago.
Yeah, so they're going to give $150 million in reparations to their citizens of the city. while they have a huge deficit. Okay.
Mhm.
And I apologize for this. They have $150 million deficit, yet they want to give, because I was thinking the reparations is going to be more than $150 million.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to be in the billions. Okay?
Yeah, it's just nutty leftists that have super majorities in legislatures.
Right.
California is in the same situation.
Oh, yeah.
They voted for reparations. They just haven't funded reparations.
Right.
So,
and I think they have a harder time in California, as loony as they are. But the thing is, you see, the reparations would go to Black people, and you've got a lot of Hispanics there, Mexicans in particular, who I don't think are going to want to pay taxes to pay reparations. Now, it's what they have done. I think San Francisco has passed reparations for the city, where the city decided they're going to do it. And what I wanted to speak about locally, we have a one city councilor here in Tulsa that is huge in the national reparations movement, and she is wanting to do the same thing in Tulsa. Now, she's a part of the national reparations, but they're still trying to get it through the 1921 riot reparations.
Yeah.
But as we've talked about before, all that is to unlock the national money. So they want to start with the local reparations funding and then go after the big one. Use that as the case. In fact, that would have been a good thing to discuss with the council as well.
Yeah, I just think, the only people that I think we could prove reparations would be a number of the tribes in eastern Oklahoma. But they largely settled their reparations in the 1866 or 1866 and 1867 Reconstruction treaties.
Right.
And every one of those treaties was different. Some of them got 40 acres, some got a mule, some got citizenship, some whatever it was. Here's the problem is the Black folk could say, we weren't a signature to those deals.
Right. Yeah, but
it was the United States advocating for the Black man against the tribes that kept them slaves even after the Civil War.
Right. But see, there's two different things at work here. Excuse me, I got this tickle.
Yeah.
The Native Americans, there's no discussion about this was their land. I mean, it was their land that we took and we moved them from their lands. We took their lands from them, okay?
By treaty, we gave them this land and they had to give up where they were at.
I'm talking about beforehand. When we first settled in and we kept driving them out.
Generally, yes.
Right. And then later, as we made treaties and so forth, then we came to that point, okay? With the Black Americans, they all came, they had nothing here.
Right.
Okay. So
they were forcibly taken here as cattle.
Right. So in essence, the reparations we could make to them, which I don't think anybody will send you back, and we'll buy you 40 acres. And
no, we gave them Liberia. We offered to send any of them back. That was something we could do.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But nobody lined up to take them. There were a few people. But,
some did.
But generally, no. Okay. So what I'm saying, it's two different things. So in essence, the slavery reparations are different than the Native American reparations.
The tribes, because
we gave them something back, but we didn't we can't give Black people back something that they'd never had.
Right. What I'm saying is the flaw of that argument about that the Reconstruction treaties were the reparations. The Black folks said, no, we didn't sign that deal. We weren't at the negotiating table. We were on the table.
There was never a reparations discussion with slaves.
I'm saying that the tribes are claiming that was by giving them 40 acres and a mule, that was the reparations. And no, it's not.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's maybe you're assuaging your own guilt, but I didn't sign that deal.
But okay. Again, but see, there's two things here. They had the option. Okay, they had the option of 40 acres and a mule, and then you had another option of not being a part of the tribe and just taking your chances with everybody.
Yeah,
else.
and every tribal treaty was different. It is different.
That's
language.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
For example, T.W. Shannon.
Yeah.
Okay, from Lawton, his family got their reparations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Chickasaw Nation.
right? The Chickasaw. They decided to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The Cherokee and the others didn't. They decided to leave them as members, and so they got whatever was dispersed through the tribes.
Right.
And so, which I think the Chickasaw made the right decision. And what's his name was, he apparently is very happy. His family was happy.
Well, and his family just ancestors married into the tribe. So
right,
TW says, I'm both Chickasaw and Chickasaw freedman.
Right. But again, I don't want to go. You're just convoluting the argument.
It does.
I'm saying that we're staying focused here, that they took the 40 acres and the mule, and I'm sorry, but and then they decided to not become members of the tribe. Right. They were basically bought off or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and keep in mind, those tribes that were moved from the southeast, they were given options individually. Look, if you want to stay autonomous in your own nation, your own government, we'll give you this land over here, and we will protect you. Safe passage there, so you're don't look like some band invading the Choctaws if you're Cherokee or something like that. And some of them stayed. Greenwood LaFleur, their principal chief, says, "I'll step down because I want to keep my plantation here and my slaves and my seat in the Senate, the state Senate." They had good options. Now, yes, there was abuse. But the greater abuse was to the slaves in the Trail of Tears because they had to carry their master's bags.
True. That's true. And so, which people don't generally want to discuss unless you're one of the freedmen. But the freedmen, the only argument the freedmen have in my book is the ones who the Cherokee and others want to kick off the rolls after that was a part of the agreement.
Right.
That's the only, but other than that, as far as freedmen, you had an option of what to do. No one held you back but yourself.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to be a very unpopular position among my fellow Black Americans, but man, I mean, at some point you have to say that we either succeeded or failed because of what we did, not because of what somebody else did. Yeah. And that's the big thing that bothers me. If you're continually, if I told you my story and my parents' story and how that whole thing shaped out on both ends, the German and the Black American side, it will put an end to the whole argument as far as you're born with a spoon in your mouth or this or that.
See, this is where, to me, the Klan leader, the David Dukes of the world, are just like the Jesse Jacksons and the race baiters. They're all blaming somebody else as responsible for your lack of success in your life. And they're all selling hate and bitterness. And that's not the Booker T prescription for moving
it's
forward.
Self-gratifying. It's all about self.
But it sells. That's the crazy thing. People
because
buy
you got a bunch of selfish, lazy, selfish people.
Yeah, who want to blame somebody else for their own failure.
Right, and that's the thing Booker T. Washington. In fact, the difference between him and several of the others in here, W.E.B. Du Bois and some of his homies, was that Booker T. did not want to integrate. Mm-hmm. He felt that was the biggest thing that would hold. And what he wanted to do is see the Black community rise economically, politically, everything from within to the point where they were as strong as the white community, and then they collaborated and worked things out.
Yeah.
But he saw it coming. He saw that you would always be beholding if you sought to integrate and live in that society without having proven yourself. He said, you can't even speak English properly. You can't read, you can't write, you can't build, you can't create anything. So you have nothing to offer. Why should these people see you as anything but a charity? And in the end, that's exactly what it is.
And you're still going to blame somebody else instead of looking in the mirror. My daughter was over a friend's house, and she was like in junior high, and I went over to pick her up, and we were sitting there. And this is a black family that we go to church with, and the black girl says to mom and dad, says, "Mom, we are so ghetto." And her mom says, "What?" She says, they're on the TV set. "You've got a PSO notice of electrical cutoff coming in 3 days, and you got old lottery tickets sitting on top of it. Instead of paying your bill, you're buying lottery tickets." She was basically the teenage daughter, basically giving the Booker T argument.
That's
Be responsible, pay your bills, and don't wait for a lottery ticket to bail you out.
Right.
Because you know what? I actually win the lottery, a $2 payout every time I don't buy a $2 ticket.
So there you go.
Yep.
So anyway, that's what I have is the major things going on today. The big one again is the No Kings rallies, and then of course Uganda joining.
See, I was all set up with a question. I thought we had Bridenstine. My apologies. We're having to reschedule. Former NASA administrator, former Congressman Jim Bridenstine. Mark Wayne Mullen got nominated, had all his hearings, got approved. He's in office in less than a month. And our poor friend Jim Bridenstine, it took him, 3 years to get the NASA administrator gig. So we've had 2 congressmen join the Trump administration. And, one went super slow, the other went really fast. So what do you think of Mark Wayne's move now that we see it?
No, I think it's a good move. I hope he does really well at it. I think there's a difference in the positions and so forth. Well,
Jimmy Kimmel thinks he's horrible because he's nothing but a plumber.
Yeah,
you know what? That's a stupid response.
That is
because
very stupid.
You know what? Plumbers are not watching Jimmy Kimmel if they ever were,
or their families are plumbers, or and if there's anyone advertising on any network where it's a plumbing, ABC, for example, let's say Channel 8, if they were running any, what is that group that, your air conditioning, what is it? It's the big air conditioning.
Airco, well, there's a bunch of them.
I think it's Airco. I think that, advertises on Channel 8 every night or whatever. They pull their advertising. Just imagine, all these plumbers start pulling their advertising.
Because he wasn't just, Mark Wayne did what's never been done. I don't know if it's ever been in any state like this. Take a local Westville plumbing shop and turn it into the biggest outfit, not just in plumbing, heating, electrical, all of that, air conditioning. He's massive.
Oh, yeah.
And he ran a tight ship.
It shows how stupid. Well, and it was $500,000 in debt. Remember? It was $500,000 in debt when he
and his dad's sick, and then dad finally died. He had to leave college to bail his family out.
Right.
And that's supposedly, beneath the dignity.
It just shows how stupid Kimmel is. He's going out.
Oh, yeah. There's a bunch of elitists. So that's going, but the musical chairs to that point. Mark Tedford, state representative for Jinx, is now throwing his hat in the ring. I saw the signs up already. He's running for 1st District Congressman because Kevin Hearn, great congressman, is running for the Senate. And I don't know who else is running for the Senate, but I think those are your 2 winners right there.
Well, I just found out this morning there's someone who may step in that everybody thinks if they do, it's over. I'm not at liberty to tell.
What, Jackson Lawmeyer?
I said I'm not at liberty to tell you who it is.
No, Lohmeyer is also running for first district.
Right,
I don't think he's the guy, though. I like him. He's a good guy, but I don't think he's the guy.
Yeah. What does the scripture say? Make your calling an election sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's made his sure, because either do you want to be a pastor or do you want to be a politician?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Make up your mind.
Man, you're teasing me now. There's somebody who might run in.
I'm happy that.
And you don't want to mention his name.
I'm not going to mention the name.
And he hasn't said yes or no, huh? It is a guy. Kim David's actually, I guess, running for Senate. So that's probably the biggest challenge against Kevin Hearn is Kim David. Corporation commissioner, name recognition is horrible. She just is. She just doesn't have any name recognition. She's got a lot of money.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
Yeah. Yeah. But
she's running for corporate. I thought she's also
she is corporate.
Oh,
she is corporate.
She's going to throw her money.
Remember that corporation's a 6-year gig.
See, what bothers me is that in the end now, it appears that the 1st Congressional District senatorial office is about money, about who has the most money.
Well,
you got Mark Tedford, Kim David.
A good friend of ours. Mm-hmm. I won't mention his name, but he kept quoting Jim Inhofe. No money, no message. No message, no victory.
Yeah. There's been one, though, that bucked that, and he was our senator. And I can't think of his name. When I first moved to Tulsa, he was...
U.S. Senator?
U.S. Senator. From Bartlesville. What was his name? Darn it. Who was the U.S. Senator? He would have been before, who did Colburn replace?
Nichols.
Don Nichols. Don Nichols did not.
Oh, that was 1980. I just moved down here.
He just outworked. I mean, I've heard him tell the story.
It was the Reagan Revolution too. It was the coattails of Reagan winning in 1980. I had no idea just how much Oklahoma loved Reagan. In 76, he just completely embarrassed Gerald Ford.
And it appears to be the same with Trump this time. And so whoever ends up winning it is a person that Donald Trump will probably support.
Yeah, when
I wish he would stay out of it, but
they were in the Oval Office this week, the Mullen family, and Trump's opening remarks he says, I won all 77 Oklahoma counties all 3 times that he ran, so, and that's after Ted Cruz eked out a victory in the primary. Mm-hmm. We're just a conservative state, or at least we were. The difference between now and 10 years ago is we've got some very blue cities.
Which this gives me a great opportunity to make the announcement that next week we will have one of those candidates for the 1st Congressional District race, Mark Tedford.
Okay.
Mark Tedford will be here next week with us. So that'll be interesting. We'll get to find out. He's an insurance guy. He's a state rep right now, but he'll be with us next week to discuss his race.
Yeah, I'm trying to find out candidates for Oklahoma set for now. Yeah,
this person hasn't announced yet, so you won't find him on there.
Right.
I'm just going to drive him nuts all week.
I'm just seeing who. Oh, Shane Jett looks like he's wanting to run. A state senator wants to run for that U.S. Senate seat. He's kind of the darling of the abolitionist, radical anti-abortion bunch on that. So let's see, Kevin Hearn, and there was talk that
Kevin Hearn's not running for Congress.
U.S. Senate.
This is U.S. Senate. Okay.
Yeah, and State Representative Forrest Bennett may run as a Democrat, but I've heard David Holt was thinking about it. let's see. Yeah. So I'm just trying to look at, the different things going on there.
Right.
David Holt, he's always been a rhino. I mean, very much a rhino.
Former mayor of Oakland.
He is the mayor.
Current mayor.
Yeah, he just got reelected again. He was a rhino state senator.
Former to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Let's see. I think Hoffmeister's done, right?
Is she planning on running for something?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Oh, I doubt it. She went as far as she could.
Yeah.
Especially once she jumped ship and became a Democrat.
How about Kathy Taylor? Do you think she's
I think she's done.
Aged out?
See, here's the problem.
She's been the mayor for how many terms now?
Well, yeah, but see, that's the problem right now.
She's the ghost mayor.
That the metropolitan areas, the cities, wherever, and particularly where college towns are, Democrats do well. Mm-hmm. As soon as you leave the borders of the cities, it's Republicans.
Yeah, there's so
state and federal.
There's really 4 counties where the Democrats have a voice.
Right, but even those Democrats, those are what do you call them, red dog, the more conservative Democrats that and even there, a lot of them have switched and become Republicans now. So, but you're talking about the blue Democrats. I mean, the really.
Right now, there's 4 places where there's a strong. I mean, remember when we had Paul Hassington? He says, "Look, if I lose, then every House seat that's within the city of Tulsa is a Democrat House seat, state legislature." And it's true.
It is.
And Eddie, even city council.
Right,
I mean, you fought a tough battle, but lost to an incumbent who's very liberal.
Right.
Despite her recent party change. Yeah, she's not fooling anybody.
No, she didn't even try. She told me. I asked her, "Why did you change?" And she says, because she wants to vote in the Republican primary.
Yeah.
That's what she said. Jeff Boatman, she wanted to support.
She wants to corrupt the Republican process.
There you go.
That's really is. She's trying to swing it, her and a whole bunch of others. Because, Eddie, you and I were looking at this map 2 years ago when you said, there's no reason, if you look at party affiliation, no reason you could lose, Eddie. But despite them being majority, like where we're in, this is a Republican precinct that votes Democrat.
Well, right. But it's not, I don't think it may have used to have been Republican. It becomes Republican once you get on the other side of 71st.
Yeah.
South of everything, 71st South up to the border of Owasso, Skytook, all that on the west, probably Kellyville or whatever. It's Democrat. It's solid Democrat or Rhino.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah.
And But
the Republicans in this house, this city council district, Republicans a majority. But the voting is not going Republican. It's not just you, and it wasn't just Alfonso or any other. They just are. They just claim to be Republican, but they vote in November as Democrat.
Well, yeah, the real I would say if there are Republicans here, a lot of them are rhinos. But, for the same reason as Kathy, now there are some solid Republicans.
Yeah.
But overall, and it's also, as I've said, north of 71st Street is Democrat.
Yeah.
From Mingo into Sheridan, you're going to be solid Democrat. Mm-hmm. And here's the deal. In this area right here where we are today, it's because of retired teachers. You got all these teachers and retired teachers and municipal workers. That's where all these people live, and they live off of the Democrat largesse of the government.
They teach up at Booker T, but they don't want to live in the Booker T neighborhood.
Right.
That's just it.
That's true.
Well, even Eric Proctor, his house when he was state rep, his house seat was up there by Admiral. And, I talked to him as he was terming out. I said, so what's next for you? He said, I'm moving to South Tulsa. I want to get out of there. And his banking office is right there at the Jinx Bridge, a big towering bank. He's like vice president of that bank. He lives like a Republican, but he advocates for Democrats. Go figure.
Well,
And you know what? Committed Christian man. And I knew his college buddy, Jared Snyder, just devout Christian man. And, like, why did this guy go Democrat? It's just like what's going on in the Senate race in Texas. Tarico or something like that.
Yeah.
You got this Presbyterian nut.
Gay Presbyterian
Yeah.
nut, I guess.
Who loves Jesus, just not the Jesus that you. Well, it goes back to Walter Williams, Walter Martin's idiom, define your terms first before you debate.
Yeah.
Or you'll be pulling your hair out.
Yeah, he loves Jesus Gonzalez.
Yeah. I got something funny to tell you. Last night. So my wife does a lot of, uses Instacart to deliver groceries, right? And, it texts you message of how your order's going and who your delivery person is. And she's reading this to me. The person who's going to fill her order is Jesus. Jesus is on his way to your house. And I said, next one, Jesus is standing at the door knocking.
Jesus at your door knocking.
Because the Hispanics love the name Jesus, which is spelled Jesus, but pronounced Jesus. I just thought.
In case you didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, hey,
crazy.
Speaking of last night, I'm watching basketball. I tell you what, the Big Ten is peaking at the right time.
I know. They've got, 4 of the 18. Oh, no, I think 5 of the 18. Five, yeah.
Now, actually, 2 of them play each other today.
Yeah, they do.
Iowa and Illinois.
Right.
So they're going to be represented in the Final Four on that. Purdue and Arizona.
Right.
That's tomorrow. Purdue's looking good. I'm just disappointed. Houston collapsed and Iowa State collapsed. Kansas. That was a tough one. Boy, especially the way that ended. Bill Self had like 4 fouls to give. Used it to eat up the clock, but just not quite enough. The guy who hadn't scored all game.
What's so weird is that KU had like a double-digit lead at halftime.
Yeah.
They had a big lead and ended up giving it up.
They really did. And I have to say, that was amazing. My buddy Rick tells me, he says, you get too obsessed in who the coaches are. Well, when you got Pitino and Self coaching, it's about the coaches because they play it masterfully. I mean, it's a game of chess, especially that last.
Somebody this morning in my meeting this morning was saying that ORU should get Rick Pitino to be their coach.
Well, yeah, it'd be nice.
That he's a really, really good coach and would do a good job.
They can't afford him.
He's the one who still wears a suit.
Oh, yeah.
He's still wearing a suit.
Remember the day when they all wore suits and then Bobby Knight wears a sweater? Like, what's wrong with you, Bobby Knight?
Yeah, Bobby changed it.
Yeah.
Well, when he started, he used to wear one.
Bill Self always dressed really snazzy. Now he's wearing a jumper, a warm-up suit. And jogging suit thing, so
maybe we should send him a letter telling him you need to go back to your suits.
But what happened to ORU's basketball program? I mean, it sucks.
Well, yeah, but they did make it to the what league are they in? The Summit League?
No, they got beat up bad.
Did they?
Yeah.
Or, did they make the tournament though? The Summit tournament? I mean, they had to, and you think that's where
they got beat by North Dakota State, I think, first round.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know who the new chancellor is? Our lieutenant governor.
Chancellor?
Of ORU.
Are you saying school president?
Yeah.
So Wilson's leaving?
No, I'm sorry. What is his? I'm sorry. I thought it was chancellor. I can't think of his name. I mean, the title, what is it? You know who I'm talking about.
Matt Pinnell.
Matt Pinnell is the new, he's got some big position at ORU. You'll find it. And a lot of people believe that he will bring the sports program back up, a lot of the programs. But I cannot remember what position they put. I thought he was chancellor, but Because colleges,
Here it is.
Lieutenant
Governor as Vice President of Development. So he's on Dean Wilson's team.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, and for a while, actually, I forget his name. Well, anyway, so Matt Pinnell is going into education. I could see him taking over for Wilson when Wilson's done. And you know what Matt is known for back at Metro Christian? Matt just kind of joined the cheerleading thing. Big megaphone.
He was a cheerleader?
He wasn't a cheerleader.
Oh, okay.
He was just kind of, start from the stands. He could move the crowd.
He was a cheer supporter.
Yeah.
So he went to Metro.
We need Pinnell in here.
Yeah, that's true.
We got to get him in here.
Okay, I'll give him a call.
Because Matt was always the marketing guy. He was for getting on whatever we're behind and backing. He could get the troops.
Well, he was chairman of the state party, and a good one.
Good one.
Really good one. Everything he's done has been good. Mm-hmm. He went to work for the RNC at one point.
Yeah.
And then he came back.
Fact is, he was slated to be the next RNC guy by the national committee, except when Trump won, which it wasn't expected to, Trump wanted to reward Daniels, Mitt Romney's niece.
Niece, right.
Yeah. And so
Ronna.
Yeah. And so, Matt, all of a sudden, I remember I was at some tea party thing down Hunter Park, and Matt shows up. And he's got this photographer, and he's coming up, and he says, just said, smile for the, like, Matt, what are you doing? He says, well, there's rumor I'm running for lieutenant governor. He didn't announce, but he really was. Yeah. And
anything else?
Yes, I got a note from one of our viewers. Elvis said he needed some financial advice from Eddie. He says, I have a structured settlement, but I need cash now.
Are you serious?
I made that up all by myself.
Get a hood and a 45 and visit your nearest local bank. You need cash now.
But okay, so what's coming up this week? Filing is next week. So I think that's one of the things we're going to want to cover. Right. Of course, we're going to have Tedford in, so that'll be a big thing we're covering. But there'll be a lot to talk about on that, the war effort, and those are the big things.
Well, there's always something. In fact, I guarantee you, by sundown, there'll be something that we didn't cover that'll have come up today.
Yeah, I think Trump was smart not bringing the 82nd Airborne into the theater of war while the Scuds are flying. So, because that's the biggest target. You got 17,000 on Army base. You just lob something up, somebody's going to get hurt.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. I'm not sure that invasion, I'm not sure it's a good thing for us to invade Iran.
And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the threat that it might. It doesn't matter what you and I think wins a war.
Well, that's true.
It's what the the Ayatollahs think is going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's true. But I'm thinking there's other ways of doing this. Mm-hmm. Infiltration and winning the minds of the people to do it themselves, arming the citizens and so forth, that type of thing. And a lot of expatriates, people that were driven out by the Ayatollahs, if you could marshal them and then get them to go back and to do it.
What if...
See, here's the thing. We don't know what Trump has in mind. Mm-hmm. We're all I'm speculating just as much as anybody. Yeah. It could be a hybrid of what you said. He could be training a private army that of Iranians, Iraqis, you name it, that are no longer loyal, Afghanis that are ready to go to war, arm them and send them in. Yeah. Something like that. That would work.
If you were able to secure a good sized portion of the land that's remote and use it as a base by which you invite your friends amongst the Persian people
to come
join our side.
We'll
protect you. And then you can organize there under protection without having to do it in the streets of Tehran. That might be a strategy. And, where you don't actually have a battlefront. Because if you got to pull their army out into the desert, you can pick them off really fast. Remember what happened in Baghdad.
Right. But at that point, do they use their own populace as hostages? It's kind of like the Palestinians, where they won't let the people go south.
You're right.
They won't let them. That's the kind of that's what they do. I mean, they'll do that and use them as shields.
But when you've got air power and you got Blackhawks and Apaches hovering over, I mean, they can take out any identified targets. It's pretty hard to keep the people from walking out in the desert, because it takes a lot of troops to stop it.
Sure.
And I think we've depleted them, and they got to be getting hungry. I don't know how they're feeding themselves, but if you can do something, say, come over here, near the Iraqi border, or come down here near the Pakistani coast or something like that, it could be a way that you train up their people to go after them. And then you get a bunch of defectors.
Right.
That are, army trained. You can get yourself some militias that can do some good. Because right now it's just the intimidation, the threat that's stopping them. So I know we could ramble, but we better call it a day.
So anyway, the big thing today is the No Kings rally. So let's keep an eye on whatever happens there. There's some underlying things going on. Tulsi Gabbard has been quietly working. I love this. You don't hear anything about her, every now and then you'll hear something, but she's not up front like the others are. And yet she's doing all the investigating, and they're finding the corruption, ballot corruption.
Yes.
Where she's finding and so forth.
Yeah.
Now, the only key is, will there be prosecutions? Because you got to get judges that aren't so left-leaning that they're willing to just ignore everything, which sadly we're finding. Like, for example, what's her name? The Attorney General, Letitia James, where judges are throwing these cases out and so forth. They're under appeal, which they should be. All of these things should be under appeal. But you got these corrupt judges now that anything a Democrat, anything someone opposed to the Trump administration does, you're going to overlook. And so we have to pray for righteous judges and even unrighteous ones to make righteous decisions and judgments. Otherwise, we're in trouble. We're in serious trouble.
Yeah.
So,
it is.
Anyway, so we've got a few things we'll find out more about next week. But anyway, we hope everybody has a great weekend. And I guess the 1st of April begins this week. So we will be able to hopefully move into the Ides of March. Will be gone. And I wish this weather would do something, because this is cold weather, not temperature cold, but people catching cold, because it's hot today. What was it? 90 Tuesday, I think it was. And then went down into the 40s or 30s, and then back up and down, up and down. And you need to make up your mind. We talked about it at the beginning. So it's still on my mind. So anyway, hey, everybody, have a great week. God bless. And we will talk to you very soon and very soon.